Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this beautiful encounter. A round of applause for everyone here just to have more energy to start this exchange. We shall enjoy a special moment because we are focused on the changing engines in the Caribbean. We are talking about youth. This is the fourth youth encounter for the young people in the Caribbean. They are the protagonists of this afternoon. I would like to remind all the people attending this session the main rules for this event. For our in-presence participants, we would like to ask you please to silence your mobile phones, and then you also can use the QR code which is in your badges. And this afternoon we would like to ask as well how important it is to me at the time appointed to each of you. Those who are online, we have simultaneous interpretation both in English and Spanish, and you can select your language, selecting channel 1 for English and channel 2 for Spanish. Microphones and cameras are silenced in a predetermined way shall be activated only if you are invited to take the floor. The true count was sent during the organization of this event, and we would like to have comments, remarks to be professional as well as relevant to these topics and meeting the code of the meetings and encounters. Thanks a lot for meeting all these rules. In case of difficulties or suggestions, please write to this just to receive any kind of assistance. So we would like as well to tell you that presentations and biographies of the people speaking in this presentation by consulting CTU.TNT. Now, for this special moment, I would like to invite Terry Johnson, who is going to be with us in the first part of this second section of the day. We are enjoying the heat of the Caribbean and Santiago de Cuba.
¿Cómo están?
How are you all? We have something to eat, didn't us? We are properly fed. We were able to drink, to share.
People. And normally after we have eaten, siesta. After we've eaten, we want to just, but we're going to be here, we're going to go through, and we're going to enjoy the rest of the day. Viceministra de Comunicaciones, Honorable Aileen Febles.
Honorable Aileen Febles Estrada, Second Secretary of the National Committee of the Communist League, Sir Gilberto Gonzalez, Chief of the FGI Office of the United Nations, Mr. Mazango, a representative of ITU for the Caribbean, Mr. Cleveland Thomas,
Government official, ladies and gentlemen, everyone who is in the room, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you again to Varadero, to Cuba. But this is the 4th Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum. Pero ¿dónde están los jóvenes? ¿Dónde están los jóvenes? Okay.
Where are young people? What's the meaning of being young? What's the age of people who are young?
A joven. 18 a 50 por ahí. Caballeros, damas y caballeros, joven.
To 50, from 18 to 50, 18 to 50. Is that being young? Well, 50 is okay. I'm still in the list. I'm included there. 18 to 35. Where are young people?
Right. Okay. Entonces, yo voy a hacerlo de nuevo. Yo voy a
do that again. I'm going to say welcome to, and then I'll say that in English.
Welcome to the 4th Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum. Thank you. El año que viene, 50 está. We want to welcome those of you who are in the room, those of you who are watching online across the region, across the world. It is a pleasure to have you. Now, since its beginning in 2022, the CIGF has grown from an inspired youth-led initiative at the ITU Generation Connect Summit into a powerful platform where Caribbean youth shape the conversation on internet governance. Along the way, it has sparked the creation of the Caribbean ICT Youth Network and earned recognition as an official national, regional, and sub-regional initiative of the United Nations Internet Governance Forum. So what are we going to do today? Today, as we step into our fourth edition, we continue the journey, tackling critical issues that will help to shape critical issues such as artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, policy and regulatory environment, and the empowerment of las mujeres in ICT and much more. The CIGF is not just about the future, it's about the present role of young people in shaping digital transformation for the Caribbean and beyond. So, to everyone here and everyone joining us virtually, we say your voice matters, your perspective counts, and this is your platform to make a difference. Again, welcome to the 4th Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum, where the leaders of tomorrow are leading today. Let's start with the introduction of Tariq Mohammed, Chair of the Caribbean ICT Youth Network and Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum Coordinator. Un aplauso, por favor.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction, Terry. Please let me adopt the protocols which have been established to save us a little bit of time. I know we're running a bit late today. This is actually my second time in Cuba, in Varadero, in fact, in this very room. Just a few months ago, I attended the ITU's Global Youth Summit, which took place here, and it's indeed a great pleasure to be back once again. And thanks to the host country for making this possible, and I think that this is just the start of a lot of good collaborations that we're going to have moving forward. As Terry mentioned, the CIGF, Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum, was an initiative launched in 2022. Since then, which started off as just an idea, we've had 3 successful Internet Governance Forums to date, and this one being the 4th, always taking place in collaboration with the CTU's Caribbean Internet Governance Forum. What was once just a thought has now evolved into a registered NRI, and I'm pleased that this is the first multilingual event that we're having. I think we do need to have more of this in the future, and that's my call to the CTU. Let's continue this approach. Let's continue what we're starting here today. In this afternoon session, you'll hear a number of interesting topics and views from youth, but also non-youth. A number of intergenerational dialogues comprising technical as well as non-technical topics, ranging from AI, digital transformation, network resilience, and cybersecurity. But quite apart from the technical aspects, we also focus on how can we empower women to also be part of the digital agenda? How can we ensure that they are adequately represented and included? And not only the women, but how can we empower the youth to help drive digital agendas globally, such as the Digital Compact, and we heard a lot from our representative at the IGF this morning on that. Within the context of the CIGF, this all falls under the strategic initiative of the CTU, the Caribbean ICT Youth Network, which I chair. By the end of this meeting, I'm hoping to invite all attendees from the Caribbean, 35 and under, to join and engage in this initiative, and I'm hoping that we can share some of the very good opportunities that we have coming up in our closing, which some of my colleagues would do. As the coordinator of this CIGF, I warmly invite you all to participate in today's events, and let's work together to strengthen the next generation of ICT leaders in the Caribbean. So with that, I'd like to thank you and pass back over to Terry. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Tariq. He speaks like this. Qué elegante. Y él habla así, normal, con la voz así.
Speaks like that, so elegant,
Estoy de acuerdo contigo. I am in agreement. It is so lovely to have a multilingual space porque nosotros somos caribeños. I mean, come on, la música, el baile.
Music, dance, everything, we are like that, full of salsa.
Nosotros hablamos inglés, ustedes hablan chabacán, nosotros hablamos nuestro idioma también, pero somos lo mismo. Tenemos los mismos problemas y tenemos las mismas oportunidades. And so I do agree with you that we absolutely need to have these kinds of spaces where, as a Caribbean, we can interchange not just language and culture, but our knowledge. Congratulations again, Tariq. We look forward. So now we invite to the stage the Vice President of the Informatics and Communications Enterprise Group of Cuba to deliver his welcome remarks. Please let us welcome Señor José Carlos Cruz Sandoval. Un aplauso.
Good afternoon for all. Buenas tardes a todas y todos.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot for being here this afternoon, and especially to young people from the Caribbean who are sharing with us. Honorable representatives of the International Telecommunication Union, distinguished representatives from the Ministry of Communication, as well as representatives of the Young Communist League, young people from the Caribbean. It's a great honor to have you all in Cuba, which is the venue of the 4th Forum of Internet Governance for Young People. Our island today is a venue of encounter for dreams, tasks, and young voices to transform digital future of our region. The Index of Resilience of the Internet presented by the Internet Society in the last regional forum revealed that the Caribbean is making advances in digital infrastructures, but we still are facing challenges in access, equity, and concentration of the market. The region is still facing some gaps in connectivity, digital inclusion, and we are also having a need to have technological sovereignty. Precisely in this context, young people are fundamental, creating local solutions, promoting innovation, and advocating for open internet for everyone. In the world which is more and more interconnected, the Caribbean cannot be behind. Our cultural diversity and the creativity and resilience are very important assets to be included in the way that we govern and build the internet. The internet governance in our region have evolved thanks to the promotion of young people, those who have a very important role in the digital transformation. In the last meeting celebrated in the year 2024, we were able to see that young people from the Caribbean are having entrepreneurial initiatives together with cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, security of social networks, and data protection. So in Cuba, in a very humble but being proud of that, we can show important results. We have been seeing a growth in the last 10 years at about 10 times the use of data from our citizens. 4G technology reaches more than 50% of the communities which are present in Cuba. We have two digital payment platforms which are nationally created as well as our national antivirus, and we have governmental organizations and civil society organizations as well as electronic digital young clubs, and we also have this promotion of digital growth in our citizens. We also have an adequate legal framework for the digital transformation as well as the 2030 digital development plans as well as development of artificial intelligence. We have an entrepreneurial, business, scientific, solid, robust system for the services they offer in total alliance with science, innovation, and the academy. All I have mentioned here is also in the hands of young people, in their hearts, and also they are protagonists of all the achievements we have had so far. These are spaces for dialogue as well as action platforms. We, young people, are not spectators but protagonists, starting with artificial intelligence, technological work, It's also given us the opportunity to have this commitment to strengthen regional cooperation and to promote digital equity. I would like to invite you all, young people, colleagues, to participate, put in your passion, and with a future vision to exchange and to find opportunities and solutions for the Caribbean, which is more connected, more sovereign, and more fair. Welcome to the digital future of the Caribbean.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Su inglés es mejor que mi español.
His English is so good.
How much passion? I think what he just did a while ago merece un gran aplauso, lo que él.
These deserve a round of applause. Put your hands together for him, please.
Los aspectos más destacados for me is that naturally we are connected, and that comes with it advantages and disadvantages. Naturally, the advantage is the exposure, the exchange, the collaboration, the capacity, the skill. But the disadvantage is privacy issues, breaches, violation. But what we have to ensure is that our youth are at the table, that their ideas are heard. We have to ensure that the Caribbean is not left behind, that when we think about environment, skill, capacity, infrastructure, technology, we, the Caribbean, cannot be left behind. And finally, something that he said that stuck with me is that the youth are not here to be spectators, they're here to be protagonists. They're not here to be dreamers, they're here to be doers. And I want to thank El Señor so much for getting us really ignited to get to our very first panel. Our very first panel this afternoon focuses on development and use of artificial intelligence in the Caribbean for digital transformation and innovation. And to moderate this session, we have the lovely, the Honorable Viceministra de Comunicaciones, Honorable Eileen Febles Estrada, and our speakers are Mr. Christopher Durrell, Youth Can Do It Too, out of Jamaica. I believe he is remote. Mr. Shagon Rosary, co-CEO, RIFBID, St. Lucia. Mr. Orlando Gabriel Toledano Lopez, Professor of Data Structures and Algorithms at the University of Informatics Sciences. And we have Mr. Roberto Martí Cedeño, Vice Dean of Research and Digital Transformation, University of Havana, Cuba. And I will now hand over to our moderator.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. As the ages of being young have been extended up to the age of 50, more than in a good position to be member of this panel. In the morning, we're able to speak about artificial intelligence, and in the last years, we have been talking about AI. We are talking about this as something new that was indeed defined in 1956, but it has some ups and downs in the last years. There have been an increase due to technological circumstances about this topic. In this panel, as it was said before, we shall be talking to young researchers and university professors who has been going through the use of a responsible use of artificial intelligence, exploring some ways to use artificial intelligence applied to economic growth, to people's lives enhancement, to technological advances, and of course, to give it responsible ethical use. So in the panel, we shall be assessing different perspectives, and we also have a professor who is invited to have a virtual, online participation, and 2 in-presence professors. We are planning to have topics analyzed like regional cooperation, as well as speaking about the relevance of young people at present times and how to make possible that the academy, the business groups, researchers, civil society might be having a joint artificial intelligence agenda for the Caribbean that enables us to make progress with equity and sovereignty, as has been mentioned before by prior speakers in the welcoming remarks. So without further ado, I would like to ask the first question to the members of the panel, to Roberto Cedeño. And in the case of the University of Havana and the Faculty of Computer Sciences and Mathematics, I know they have had some experience on achieving an active participation of young people in the topics we have been mentioning here. So my question, how from the university is, the students have been given the possibility to use artificial intelligence for development and research. Good afternoon, and thanks a lot for the invitation to this forum. It's totally true what we were saying, that artificial intelligence have been mentioned for the first time for decades now, from in the year 2020. In GPT market, it has been reintroduced again in the way they have been used. What changed? It changed that the opportunity of having artificial intelligence is closer now, and anyone who's able to read and write on those who have access to digital possibilities are able to see the importance and relevance of artificial intelligence. Young people, of course, are the one to use these technologies, and from the university, as a leading and training entity of that knowledge, gives young people the opportunity to be much more involved in all this. In the mathematics and computing sciences in the faculty in the University of Havana, we have 3 pillars. First, we have to know and functioning of artificial intelligence. We need to know how the algorithms are created. We have to know the design of artificial intelligence. And third, we have to have a responsible use of artificial intelligence. The first challenge we had, and the challenge we still have, was to integrate artificial intelligence with our curricula in the University of Havana. We have 2 careers which might use artificial intelligence, data sciences and computing sciences. We include in both careers the artificial intelligence assessment, but those are now the only careers we have in the University of Havana. So we have to include in other careers in the university also artificial intelligence. So we have to analyze all that, because the way of acting, the way of thinking change. So those tasks of compiling information have changed. Interaction is different now with artificial intelligence. Now we have a lot of possibilities to be faster, to be much more expedited. So we need to include artificial intelligence in the careers or in the subjects where it is really needed. In some subjects where students are to create their own situations and solutions, we are using artificial intelligence. But on the other hand, in some other subjects where we need to prototype, or the artificial intelligence is a tool that brings the students closer to daily life. And today we have the possibility to give students projects that might be using artificial intelligence and to be applied to daily life. Another situation in which students are using artificial intelligence is in research, in doing research. Doing research, trying to find the state of the art with the studies combination exercises is also recommended to have AI. So it's important from the academy we teach how to assimilate artificial intelligence, mainly because they are to understand artificial intelligence as well as the algorithms. Those are the But artificial intelligence is much more attractive, good or bad, is the data, the information we are trying to find and use it for. We also find limitations, of course, in artificial intelligence, but we need to know those limitations and advantages to be able to use it every single day. We need to find the problems where we are to use artificial intelligence and what problems are not in the need of using artificial intelligence. As part of the development or the inclusion of artificial intelligence, we in the university have some training courses for different kind of audience. For students, for instance, some students that also are fostering social projects, trying to include, and this is a world, I might be wrong, and I know this is a world of men, but we would like to include women as well in our projects. In the senior high school, we also include women, I mean the girls, in using artificial intelligence. We also have tailored made programs and artificial intelligence programs in the University of Havana. In the eastern part of Cuba, we have some of our teachers training some of the professors, students, and specialists on how to professionally and responsibly use artificial intelligence. We also have the human participation in using artificial intelligence. We are teaching people how to use big quantities of data and how to use the information, how to use the copyright, and after all this assimilation and understanding, we also insert our students in our research lines. Just to mention an example, since the COVID time started, the students have been combining scientific work as well as on-the-job practices, and we have project of artificial intelligence used in medicine for cancer studies and also in other courses for artificial intelligence. And we foster not only the study, development of artificial intelligence, but we use it in our daily life. And particularly, we included in the University of Havana generative kind of programs to include local models and the MS for the learning and teaching of the students. And of course, I have to mention that in the University of Havana, in the Faculty of Mathematics and Computing, we designed the first generative model in Cuba. The name is Cecilia, and I'm not going to talk about that so much because I have a colleague who's going to be speaking about this on Friday. But this is another contribution done from the Academy. Thanks a lot, Roberto. In the Academy, we have a lot of challenges, and we have challenges in the learning teaching process. We have challenges in the use of artificial intelligence in the evaluation process and also in the training of our teachers so they can use artificial intelligence in teaching their lessons. Now we are going to change the context, and we shall be listening to Cyigf Ruseri just to ask him, how have you been able to use the artificial intelligence and other emergency technologies and innovation in the Caribbean?
So right now I feel like the CEO of both Optronics and RIFBID. So I guess I could speak both how Optronics does this and how RIFBID does this as well. So, one second. So with Optronics, really we were founded in 2020 with the mission to accelerate technology growth across the Caribbean region. And we took a two-pronged approach to doing this. One, we empower businesses to help build the technologies that they need to help drive innovation in the region. And also we empower the persons that can build these technologies to do so. So just to expand on how we've done that. In building these technologies, we work with a number of companies across small and medium enterprises as well as government agencies to build those solutions that they need. So just for one example, we've been working with this genetic testing company we've helped them build a digital platform where they are currently leveraging AI and patient data to do a pre-screening of individuals to see how their genetic markers combined with some of their medical data can help with the early assessment with non-communicable diseases. That's just one example of how some businesses in the Caribbean are building these innovative technologies, and we at Optronics are helping them. On the empowerment side, we have done a number of training programs with youth across islands in the Caribbean region. So, for example, we partner with organizations like the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, NTRC, the OSS Commission, where we've hosted a number of training programs specifically in AI and digital technologies that we've seen that have produced these students that are today now helping us build these digital solutions that will build this silicon forest in the Caribbean region. And we call it the silicon forest because we believe that we in the Caribbean can grow something akin to the Silicon Valley, but we must be able to pull together academia, the private sector, government, and bring those institutions together to really have a successful ecosystem. On the other hand, like I said, apart from building those solutions for businesses, we at Optronics build our own digital technologies where we leverage AI. So, for example, one of the businesses that spun out of Optronics was RIFBID. And really, RIFBID was started because we recognize a $60 billion problem across the world, which is that over $60 billion worth of government contracts go completely unanswered each year. Why? Because there are various problems in the procurement process for not only on the supplier side, but on the public agency side as well. And we recognized this problem maybe a year ago, and we started to do some customer interviews. And the more that we dug into the problem, the more that we realized that this problem was a massive problem where we saw that AI could have a really strong impact on not only streamlining the flow for these public agencies, but making the process more transparent and more efficient as well. So what we did in the first iteration for our MVP, we started with a simple iteration, a simple integration for suppliers where we focused on leveraging AI to make the process simpler for suppliers bidding on contracts. So for one example, we started scraping contracts from a number of places, passing it through our AI models, then synthesizing it in a way that is important or only the relevant information comes out for the suppliers, and then they're able to easily bid on those contracts. And then after we built that MVP and we started having some more conversations, what we realized is that this specific problem that we were tackling had interest from not only the region, but persons internationally as well. So for example, we were speaking with a representative from the World Bank who manages procurement in the Caribbean region, and what he was telling us was that our estimate was that maybe 20% of procurement processes have inefficiencies because the process itself is not followed in terms of compliance. And you are saying, according to their data, is way higher than that, maybe over 50%. And that is one area that we see our system RIFBID being able to ensure compliance not only on the supplier side, but ensuring compliance on the public agency side as well. So after building that MVP, RIFBID was one of the first companies out of the Eastern Caribbean to receive pre-seed funding from the second largest venture capital accelerator in the US, Texas, to help develop this solution. So we continue to develop this solution, and we've integrated AI into a number of the workflows to really help streamline, for example, the solicitation, the evaluation, making those processes more robust for these public agencies. And what we see the future of RIFBID really being is, and we've continued, even from the early days where we started building RIFBID, we maintained that we built it on top of the model context protocol to ensure that it was agentic in nature and that all the modules that we've built can be used or reused in other applications as well. So what we really see the future of RIFBID being is this agentic infrastructure where it not only is able to help you with your procurement process, but is able to provide procurement insights or procurement intelligence for government agencies. So, for example, if you want to conduct a procurement process for a specific project, you can ask RIFBID, okay, if I want to conduct this procurement process, but I want to ensure that I only use suppliers from this specific region. How does this affect my cost in the future, or how might this affect the number of persons that I have applying to this specific contract? So just intelligence like this, allowing agencies to make more informed decisions, and we really believe that RIFBID can help not only the Caribbean region but globally as well, help streamline procurement to really help get a lot of funding to where it's needed most in the hands of the people. So that's just some examples of how we've been doing that across both Optronics and RIFBID as well.
Muchas gracias. Sí, realmente son.
Thank you very much. And these are important issues that make sure the development of alliances for us to provide solutions and sovereignty in different countries. It is not only in the Caribbean region, but also in the world. Now, Christopher Darrell is going to take the floor, so he's going to speak about another perspective in relation to AI. And I asked him to talk about how can you harness policies, AI policies that we were talking about in the morning in relation to the public policy registration. There are 500 that are registered in that important public consultation register that we were talking about in the morning, how they can serve to promote sustainable AI and to diminish problems in relation to AI that they have also mentioned by different speakers.
Thank you. Just want to make sure that you're able to hear. Okay, thank you. Thank you as well for the invitation. It's our great privilege to be part of this system. Youth Can Do IT, just to give a bit of background, we are an organization that is focused very much on youth between 7 and 25, our content creators on the digital world that they're supposed to go into, rather than content consumers. So not just persons who are using tools, but create not just Instagram influencer, but the builder of the next. So one of the big things about that is that our program has reached persons from not only in America, but across the world. Up to date, we've reached about 25 people across the world. It's really from Trinidad to Bangladesh. And that was all the brainchild of our founder, Leanne Mann. Now, the reason she started Youth Can Do IT, one of the reasons that we're still around today, because she recognized that there's a mental shift that we need to have as Caribbean youth, which is that we can actually do the same things that are being done at Google, at Facebook, as a product. And so when it comes to policy, we had a very big opportunity recently to work with Oxford University to look at how it is that we can come up with ethical framework for interaction for kids online. Now, that study was specifically about the metaverse. You're a technology fan, and you know what that means. But the metaverse was a digital space. It's a digital space that you can interact with other persons in, and you have an interactive environment. And so our discussion was about how do you safeguard this digital space and allow students in young and vulnerable ages to have safe interactions with persons they may not have met in real life. So out of that came what we call ethics in the metaverse. It was a policy or a guideline about how you can have ethical interaction in these digital spaces. And the beautiful thing is that it applies not just to virtual reality space, but to anything that they're doing. And so what is important to us is that as we look at policies that we are going to apply in terms of artificial intelligence to software in our region is that we have to be careful to be reasonably strict. What do I mean? While we are going to adopt policies that are proposed from other nations and we're going to tweak it for ourselves, we have to be very careful not to literally Google someone else's policy and think that that will apply to our region in a practical way. Jamaica is currently going through that kind of learning because we put in place our Digital Protection Act, and it's very closely related to the GDPR that the EU has put in place, right? And it's also similar to the UK GDPR. But actually, in some areas, the act is more strict. And so what you're finding is that this is affecting companies that are still in the growth stage or just learning to operate online and digitize their business by taking a policy that was built for nations that have been way ahead in terms of their technical. And so one of the big things that we know is that we can't just take a policy and apply it to the region. Otherwise, we will probably, for lack of a better word, strangle our own innovation before it's even happened. But then we have to include the kids themselves or the youth themselves in the policy writing. As you mentioned, there are many policies. But the best policies, and based on the work that we do, the best policies come when you include the students themselves in the policy writing. And I know you might hear that and you say, okay, but if you include students in writing a global AI policy or a Cuban AI policy or a Jamaican AI policy, they're just going to ask for things like how to have more fun or how to do more, gaming using AI. But what we found is that some of the very issues that we are concerned with as adults, the kids also already have on their mind. For our program, we had 21 students between 10 and 17. And the issues they raised, they're concerned about data protection. They're concerned with how their data is being used. They also raised autonomy, meaning none of them read terms and conditions before they sign up for the software. None of them. And so they were also concerned about how can they make that more palatable for younger audiences? Can they turn terms and conditions into a video, right? Something that will make them more engaged with the terms that they're reading. And so one of the things that we took away from that in terms of policy development and guideline development is that these kids are smart, right? They're just little humans. And they have a very big desire to contribute into policies that they are going to have to adopt when they grow up. Because, to be honest, these policies are going to affect them much more than they do us, especially those between 7 and 17, when they're going to be growing under these policies for AI development. So I think my first clarion call is making sure that the students, the youth, are part of the policy writing. All they need is guidance while we're making how it's going to happen. And that is one of the mainstays of our program, which is that we make sure that anything we're teaching, whether it's web development or blog writing, is relevant to the current day. And we're not trying to teach old technologies that they will not be able to use to thrive in the future.
Thank you. Gracias. Bueno,
Thank you very much. We have all talked about the importance or the value of data to get a proper use of AI, a proper use and ethical use for countries. So, this panel is about to end, but I would like to know how you have faced the challenges to protect data in every country, in the country you reside. So, Christopher is going to take the floor that is online, so you can speak a little bit about these data issues.
Yeah, no problem. So I hope this is a little better. I'll start with a story. As part of that same program, they had the students create an avatar of themselves. So if you don't know what an avatar is, it's a digital representation of yourself that you send on a platform. And so what we basically saw was a split in how the kids actually made their avatars. The boys, very quickly, they would put on something like a rubber duck on their head, swim around them, and then they're happy, they're fine. But the young ladies, the young women at the time took a bit longer because what they were trying to figure out was which hairstyle really matched them, which hairstyle really represented them. And because of the tool that we were using to teach, they were not representative hairstyles for how they grew up. Right? They didn't have the hairstyles that they actually had. And so they had to choose the closest representation. I share that to say that the tool we're discussing is going to have the mark of the person who has created the tool, right? Whether good or bad. They have built-in bias. And opportunity we have in the region is to make sure that we train our own models, our own tools, so that when we're ready to select a voice over a video AI, it has that human inflection when they speak, or it has the Jamaican pathos right on the voice itself, because we have that rich set of data. And so the thing that was a bias becomes this strength because it's focused on our actual the issues that we have in our region, rather than trying to just adopt one-stop solution to everybody on the planet. So having those tailored solutions, and that can only if we are training our models on very good data, garbage in and garbage out. And really quickly, I think it's important that we're careful, flexible with the policies we put in place. So if we realize that the policies around the data are actually stifling innovation in the Caribbean, I think it's important that we are quick to assess it, review it, check whether it's working or not, and then there's nothing wrong with pivoting if we realize we've made a mistake in what we've done in the policy. But the biggest problem would be if we stick to the policy and say 3%, therefore we're going to hold it for 5 years, and then we find ourselves in 2030 behind the rest of the regions because we didn't pivot more quickly.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to the speakers. So please, can you talk about data, your perspective, or what are the challenges we have in relation to data, the use of data, its structure, the protection? So can you speak about this? I'm going to talk about two issues on data. The first one is related to the region, particularly in Cuba. We have a lack of internet data. In our case, we have been a digitization process, but from the point of view of data, it has been not well implemented. For example, the historian's office of the city have digitalized all these historic data. They have pictures. These registers are digital, but they are not present in AI. But we have to take a step beyond not only the visual representation, but also the written representation in AI. And the other issue is who is the owner of data to which data respond to, in which these models are implemented on. So the lack of culture, if you do not have data, you lose the way you communicate, the culture. So, a way to represent and present all the good things of the region is by using data, and also to provide solutions that enable to understand the local cultural heritage. But also we have to understand these matters. Thank you very much. And to close this issue on data,
I think one point that he touched on, and I guess I want to reiterate, is that we have in our process in digitization, we have to think about what the future might look like and how that data can be used in the future. So one example where he touched on with the museum, for example, and them digitizing their photos, a problem that we came across just recently with the GIS in St. Lucia, where they now want to go through the process of digitizing their video records. And they've started the process where they started to upload these clips from the tapes or whatever. But the issue is that you have all these tapes and you don't have a really easy way to access them because they're not easily tagged. So for example, you might have clips which are about Cuba, for example, the beaches. They show they show different features in those clips, but you're not able to find them very easily because it's just a clip, right? There wasn't that thing that thought about, okay, in the future, how might we're digitizing, but then what does that really enable? How can we use whatever we're digitizing in the future? And that's something I think we need to be very cognizant of today, is that whatever steps or whatever processes that we implement or whatever features that we build today, we're not just building for today, we're building for 10 years down the line. And I know sometimes you have that difficulty between balancing between what should I prioritize today and what do I prioritize in the future. But there needs to be that constant thought of how do we enable a future that is accelerated, right? Because what I keep saying is, in the Caribbean region, we are aware that there's a digital divide between us and third world countries. And if we are to move at a velocity that we can say we want to catch up, and they themselves are also constantly saying, we need to progress, the only way that you can catch up to someone who is already moving faster is for you to continue to accelerate. That's the only way. And if we aren't, having that foresight of 10 years down the line, what can we use or how can we leverage our data that we have today, then we will never catch up.
Gracias. Bueno, sin datos.
Thank you very much. And without data, we're not going to have AI. That is why we have to carry out a proper data governance. So data is not owned by anyone. So this is for a better life in our region. And to close this session, in 3 words, very short words, you are going to describe how we put in the hands of young people and the peoples of the Caribbean AI. What should we do? The first word is infrastructure, data, and human resources. So we should train human resources and provide measures in relation to AI and provide infrastructures. And without data, we're not going to get anywhere.
A silicon forest because that is the flywheel that we need to continue building the infrastructure in the Caribbean. That infrastructure then feeds into that infrastructure can be monetized, and once that is monetized, it encourages persons to get into the field. As we have more persons coming into the field, it's easier to build that infrastructure. We need to build a sustainable flywheel, and that is the way to do it, by building a silicon forest.
Christopher?
I would say, not hearing? Okay. So pipeline. Pipeline is the first word, because it's important that the next generation understands the flow between where they are and being excellent developers or excellent online creators. So it's not just I code and then I'm going to create. It's how do I get from starting to code to becoming one of the top developers. And that's one of our big focuses. The other is micro solutions. I think we're looking at a time in the future where The goal of building AI solutions is not necessarily just to become a unicorn, build a company. It's just to solve the problems that are right around you. So if you have any issues within your house, you're trying to figure out how to purchase groceries, you can build your own solution that solves a personal problem or a community problem, and you're causing impact rather than trying to build $1 billion company. And then the last thing would have to be education, right? Not just teaching how to prompt, but why it's important to understand the critical thinking behind what solutions you're prompting or what you're creating, so that we don't end up with persons who know how to prompt but don't know why they're prompting.
Bueno,
So
muchas gracias.
education, pipeline, and micro.
Muchas gracias. Yo sumaría alianzas.
Thank you very much. I would say also alliances and collaboration networks that we have been building in this youth forum. Thank you very much.
Un aplauso, damas y
Round of applause.
I enjoyed this panel because of how it was comprised. We had someone representing academics. We had a youngster who is showing you how they are applying AI in business and solving problems and making money. And even though we had some difficulty hearing Christopher, for many of you who may not be aware, Christopher's platform, or the Youth Can Do It program, actually does a lot of work with the youth, and they actually do focus a lot even on girls. So here are my takeaways, los aspectos más destacados. From Christopher, what I got from him is that as Caribbean people, we have to be less consumers and we have to be more creators. Can't just keep on using without actually developing on our own. And that is something that I took away from Christopher. We heard about micro solutions, something that he also said. Just find the problems, the small ones, find the problems, find the solutions. You don't have to try to be a unicorn. When I heard Cedeño speaking, he spoke with a lot of intention. We can't just speak about artificial intention. We can't just speak about artificial intelligence, excuse me. We have to ask ourselves, what are the data? Do we have the data? Are we collecting the right data? Are we applying this data? How are we learning from this data? And last but not least, something that we learned from Shagan is that we can't be short-sighted. We need to be looking at the future. We need to be creating things for the future and not just now. So I just want to thank all of the participants and to our esteemed moderator for handling that very, very well. So panel 2, the topic. Estamos hablando de tecnología.
We're speaking about technology, AI.
How are you? Thank you so very much. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Secretary General of the CTU, Sir Rodney Taylor. If you could kindly stand so that we can reconocerte. Él llegó ahora mismo.
He arrived right now. Do you speak Spanish?
Okay, never mind. Welcome. Good to have you. So we're moving to our next panel. We've been speaking about la inteligencia artificial. We've been speaking about tecnología, but we have to speak about security. Seguridad.
No,
So we're looking at cybersecurity and infrastructure resilience, protecting the Caribbean's digital future. I hand over to our moderator, Mr. Tariq Mohammed, Chair of the Caribbean ICT Youth Network, and his panelists. The speakers are Ms. Federica Tortorella, Youth Advisory Board Member for the Resilience Project at Suboptic Foundation, La República Dominicana, and Mr. Daniel Perea Núñez, Director General of the Computer Network Security Office. Please welcome them.
Good afternoon again, everyone. For the Caribbean, cybersecurity and network resilience are critical in our increasingly digital world. Our region's dependence on digital services in areas such as tourism, finance, healthcare, and beyond make it a target for cyber attacks such as ransomware and other disruptions. Strong, robust cybersecurity practices are therefore essential to protect these critical services. Quite apart from cybersecurity, the Caribbean's vulnerability to climate-related disasters and other network disruptions make network resilience equally crucial. It ensures that critical communications and emergency services can withstand both cyber incidents as well as physical threats, enabling effective disaster response and economic continuity. A unified regional approach is key. Collaborations and discussions such as those that we have today through bodies and agencies such as the CTU are critical to share best practices, build capacity, and fortify our digital infrastructure. This afternoon, we're joined by two key panelists today that are involved in both the network resilience as well as cybersecurity spaces to explore further. Firstly, we have Ms. Federica Tortella, the Youth Advisory Board member for the Resilience Project at the Sub-Optic Foundation, and she's from the Dominican Republic, as well as Mr. Daniel Pereira Nunez, the Director General of the Computer Network Security Office in Cuba. Federica, Daniel, buenas tardes. So I'd like to start off this afternoon by actually inviting Ms. Federica. So Federica, as a youth involved in the Sub-Optic Foundation, can you tell us more about some of the work that you're currently involved in?
Okay, thank you very much. Voy a hablar español y bueno, no me voy a...
I'm going to speak in Spanish. For me, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Federica. I'm part of the Youth Advisory Board member of the Resilience Project from Dominican Republic. We were talking about research and awareness on resilience, digital resilience. 15 minutes are going to be very short, but my other colleagues have to speak as well. But I'm going to show you what we have been doing, and my presentation is going to call for action, so you join us. You're going to have other opportunities to know what we are doing, because we need Caribbean voices for the new generations in the digital infrastructure world. To start, I would like to make some questions, to ask some questions, and I would like you to answer them. I'm going to do this in Spanish. Have you ever thought about what actually keeps you do to use your cell phones, for example, send messages, good morning, or maybe you're at the beach? Also, when we talk about sustainability of the communication network, what do you think about this? And for me, it's important to know what we can learn from the atmosphere phenomena that take place on the Caribbean. Maybe you can answer these questions. I would like to ask our host.
This question, I would like actually to ask you to tackle the second one. What's the first thing that comes in your mind when it comes to telecommunication network sustainability?
I think I consider energy. Whenever I think of sustainability, huge networks, telecommunication, I think of large systems. For it to be sustainable, I want to know how efficient is this energy use? Is this renewable? Are we doing our best in that regard?
Excellent. Aquí también voy a preguntar.
I'm going to ask a man, what do you think about behind this internet connection you have in your cell phones? what physical components allow you to be connected. There are different physical components and also human components that are behind this process. And I think that we could talk about the communication infrastructure that is behind this, from the wires and also the clients that are using this. And I think that there is a lot of talent from people and the science that is behind all these technology professionals that are thinking how we can use better and user-friendly with the environment. And I think that maybe the solution is focused on that. Have you done your homework? Energy, human components? So today I'm going to talk about a little bit more about these aspects. And you were talking about key issues: the energy, the footprint, the carbon footprint, and also the collaboration for an effective use of energy. And today, my presentation, I'm going to talk about these issues. I'm part of the Suboptic Foundation that comprises different sectors of the digital world. And what we do, we create and raise awareness. Especially, we are focused on helping the new generations of professionals. The first question I asked was, what do you think that is behind the connection on internet? And this is part of a list of the components that are behind the internet. We were talking about the apps and what is developed, but there are different physical components in this. For example, underwater wires, also internet exchange points.
Deberíamos hablar también.
And also we have to talk about presence points, among others. You have to understand that behind this message that you sent, the email, there is an important component. It is beyond the physical component. The second question has to deal with sustainability. And the energy is important in this. And in the last few years, people are being concerned about carbon footprint, but mainly at the beginning, the conversation was focused on other things.
El agua, para el tema del enfriamiento de los equipos, que la energía, que
the energy, whether it's renewable or not. But then again, we took to the task of confirming, why the underwater cables were not included in these studies, and it is because generally the carbon print from them is insignificant, and therefore it was not included in some studies. However, we have seen that the underwater cables were not included in these surveys, and that we also found that there was no cooperation up until 2021 in respect to the industry in order to see what better practices on sustainability could be implemented in the operations and in the entire value chain, or the distribution chain. And then, therefore, in 2021, the Cyigf Foundation that had been established that year together with UC Berkeley, they partnered with each other and established the Sustainable Subsea Network. And this project brings together the industry and the academia in order to identify, best sustainability practices. So this project was founded by the Internet Society Foundation, and then we have this report on best practices on sustainability of the underwater cables. And there you have a QR code, and if you can scan it, and if it doesn't work, please let me know, and I'll be pleased to send you the link. Now, the third question that I had asked is, if had you thought how there's something that characterizes us in the Caribbean is the weather events, and these weather events have an impact on the digital structure. And we asked ourselves a similar question in our foundation, and then we conducted a survey, and we found that most of the islands in the Caribbean have a 56% broadband penetration, and the fixed band penetration as compared to other regions is relatively low. However, we have, irrespective of the island or the region, we have certain challenges that are common. For example, the energy supply, as well, and diversification, poor regional connectivity, and logistical costs are very high too. And at a commercial level, that also has an impact on the implementation or the rollout of cables. There's also great vulnerability associated with natural disasters, as I mentioned before. And there's also this question of, I have prepared my presentation in English, and that is the public debt, is very high in some countries, and as a result, the levels of FDI does not come in the same way because incentives are not there, for some, among other reasons. I think one is missing here. So as we look at this picture, and we find the number of wishes, that we share in the Caribbean, a number of challenges, we share in the Caribbean, that these challenges may discourage the deployment of additional digital infrastructure. This is a map of existing cables in the Caribbean, referring to underwater cables. There was a boom in 2000, but then this boom dwindled. So by 2025, there's only two cables, that were reported that will be rolled out, by 2025. You have one here, and then the theoretical, in theory, a cable lasts for 25 years, and so the Caribbean needs some renewable in terms of the water cable. We have a lot of cables, but many of these cables have already completed the 25 years of theoretical useful life. Another point we have seen in our foundation is that to date, no comprehensive study has been conducted on these topics, and this is associated with the comments were made by the colleagues in the previous panel. In order to have AI, you need an infrastructure, and we have a challenge here. We have an infrastructure in place that needs to be addressed, from different perspectives. And this led us to a study that will be published before the end of this year, which is called Strategic Network Resilience. Now, the purpose of this study was interview over 700 experts from different sectors in the Caribbean, and main findings are as follows. Strategic resilience has an important human dimension, and this is connected with what the gentleman said before. Internet is not just an antenna and a cell phone, but a team of people who are acting in cooperation and supplying their knowledge and expertise. So, relations and cooperation, and in particular trust, are critical for projects to be executed. Third, there is a need for better communication. That is, we need to improve and expand communications, and in particular, emphasis must be placed on the critical infrastructure and its importance. There's also need for education, not only in terms of technical skills, but also raising awareness. And of course, resilience needs to be, the changes in resilience must be comprehensive, and it needs to cover all of the aspects of the infrastructure. It must be progressive. And then last but not least, this concept of strategic resilience means that beyond being a next responder, that is to, rather than being reactive to a problem, we need to be first responders. That is, we need to be more proactive, more preventive, because challenges will always be there, but if from day one you have a preventive approach, and that is when the local disaster hits in, and that is, it's not the same that you are repairing a cable that's been pierced, than to have a mechanism in place to make sure that our resilience is easier to address. This is just a recap. Our foundation is very much concerned with the research projects and education and awareness on infrastructure, and we have looked at a report on the best practices on sustainability for underwater cables, that is energy and carbon print, and then the second point is the studies on strategic resilience in the Caribbean, and this study will be reported published before this year's. And another important project of our foundation focuses on attracting the new generation of professionals, and that is the certification on global digital infrastructure. This year, we launched our first program in the world that helps students address technical, economic, and geopolitical topics. And these topics are associated with the evolution of the internet infrastructure globally, with special emphasis on data centers and on the water cables. So there was a video presentation I had prepared. I don't know, I won't be able to see it here. Can we play it? You see, sometimes you can program it in Spanish, but we can also put it in English, which is the default language for the program, for the video presentation.
And I've been to explain.
Estás en vivo. Okay. Sí, en lo que podemos.
While we play the video presentation I just wanted to show you, this certification course that started this year, and it has 3 modules. One is Digital Infrastructure 101, and that is a composition of a cable and other topics such as data center. The second module is on how to build a global internet. And the third one is TechWorks, and it covers geopolitical and and conflicts that are so local, economic, and political matters have an impact on the digital infrastructure. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Okay. We can come back on my presentation. Of course, my presentation will be made available to you all. I can always circulate it to you all. Debo explicarles esta infraestructura en un segundo. Cada vez que ustedes...
You answer an email, you look at a video, you check social media. All of that rests on a massive, sprawling infrastructure. It goes around the world, and it's comprised of subsea cables that lay on the very bottom of the seafloor. All of this affects
lo pueden
how
pausar y como les dije, la presentación va a estar disponible.
Presentation will be made available to you all, because I got 2 slides on my presentation to go with. Let me go back to my presentation.
Okay. Por lo que de mi parte, digamos que abordar tantos temas en poco tiempo.
It is quite challenging, to address many topics in such a short period of time, but just to let you know that we are running a number of activities in our foundation. Our purpose is to attract, the young generation to the topics of digital infrastructure, and this may not be fashionable now, but with the AI requiring faster internet service, we are seeing more and more people talking about data center and energy, because and we also see that the big tech companies have been joining the market. That is Google Metals, and are already deploying the cables and data centers. If you're interested to hear more about us adopting our foundation, and in particular if you're interested in participating actively in these activities that we are running for new generations, here I have my QR code or also Google form, so that you can drop in your contact information, that we want to build a database of individuals who are interested, because our idea in our foundation is to continue to run research projects and impart education, so that digital infrastructure can be accessible to everyone. I will stay behind, for the rest of the day and the week, I'll be available for any questions. And if your QR doesn't work, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Federica. That was an excellent.
Gracias, Federica.
I agree that a holistic, proactive, strategic approach towards resilience is, the ideal strategy that we should take. Also glad to hear about the multi-dimensional certification, and I started filling out the form actually that you put up on the screen. So I encourage some others to also fill that out.
No importa la edad, pueden hacerlo, o sea, no hay que ser, háganlo, o sea.
Age don't matter, you don't have to be, so you're more than welcome to join me here.
So I'd like to ask my next question to Daniel. So Daniel, based on your experience at the suit in managing critical incidents and protecting national infrastructure, what capabilities do you believe are already established in your country? And which of these could most effectively be strengthened through technical collaboration among Caribbean suits?
This is a good question. The answer, team, we have faced different challenges on cybersecurity. This has allowed us to consolidate the way of behaving in the face of these problems. We have had to create and develop infrastructure and technological capacities in the 24 hours a day, the 7 days of the week, to detect these threats in real time. And there have been many problems. These problems are repeated in our infrastructures. There is a method of automation of processes, of common incidents, and also the active methods in these infrastructures. And we are going to look for an institutional coordination between the companies of the sector. However, we have had that a country can face this type of threats by itself. And in Cuba, in the region, there are commitment patterns. And I know that these incidents are common, for example, ransomware phishing campaigns, vulnerability exploitation campaigns. And in our infrastructures, we have this. This is going to enable that in the region, these indicators can be shared. That, in a way, we are going to be more active in these issues. There are different data and also these problems are present in our infrastructures. Because we always say that we're going to carry out a conference, the final client is the most vulnerable one due to the development of AI and also cybersecurity issues. And the detection methods must be updated with these new changes. And second of all, we think that it's important to carry out joint exchanges with the teams that have had computer incidents in the region, but also share experiences and models in these areas. At the beginning, I was talking about the ransomware issues, how we can face these ransom campaigns. There are some countries that use a different methodology and we use another on how we can detect and restore information, recover information. And also our experiences, so others countries do not have the same one as we had. And in the region, this is going to be an important issue. Another issue is walking in the way to share the classification of these incidents. So there are different classification processes, and in relation to other countries, this may be a problem. Maybe there are incidents in different regions. They have other concepts. Or maybe we have to agree and to work together on these issues. Because if there is a cooperation framework between these responses, the team of responses on these issues. And to end, I would like to say that digital resilience, and also it is about coordination and a shared vision. And if we are able to build these infrastructures, we are going to protect our infrastructures, but also guarantee a safer and more safe digital future in the region.
Thank you, Daniel. So, I do agree.
Yo estoy de acuerdo contigo, realmente no podemos ver esto como de una manera aislada. La formación de capacidades y mejorar las condiciones a la luz de la inteligencia artificial son elementos y por supuesto necesitamos compartir de datos e incidentes entre los diferentes países a través de un marco de colaboración. Le doy las gracias por ello. También estoy consciente del tiempo y que empezamos tarde también. Desafortunadamente, yo estoy seguro de que ustedes muchos tienen preguntas, pero yo espero que nuestros panelistas se quedarán por aquí después de la sesión y estarán por aquí en los próximos días. Excelente, por lo tanto, ellos van a estar aquí en los próximos 2 días. Entonces, para concluir, quiero dar las gracias a nuestros dos panelistas, así como al CTU, por haber propiciado este evento, lo cual nos indica que la ciberseguridad y la resiliencia de las redes son elementos
points of views. So thank you very much, and the QR code as well as the presentation that Federica shared will also be placed on the CTU's event page on the website. So if you're interested, it's on the slides, right? And her email is also on the slides, so you can make full use of her while she's here. For the persons that are joining us online, sorry you can't make use of that, but her emails and her slides will be online. So please feel free to reach out to them. And let's give a round of applause to our panelists.
El aplauso para ellos.
A round of applause for them. Excellent presentations that they have carried out in this afternoon. We have been talking about the youth, and always I talk about with students some technology. I always
La comprensión
through understanding of these infrastructures. What happens when we use technology, when we connect, there is a philosophy, a sense, a logic of the individuals, and they do not understand this, so they must be aware of this. That is why these presentations are so important. And I would like to welcome to someone that is with us this afternoon. Tania Velázquez, that is the executive president of the Cuban telecommunication company. A round of applause for her. She is with us. She's going to have the opportunity to talk to us, because in the next minutes we're going to have the possibility to talk about women empowerment. And here we have more women than men, so raise your hands. Women, raise your hands. We're going to take a break of 15 minutes, and then we're going to come back and to have the presentation of TICs, women, ICTs, women empowerment.
Desde las islas hasta las costas brillantes, voces que se alzan construyendo puentes gigantes. Juntos llegamos con ideas por compartir. El futuro es nuestro, listos para construir. Cada chispa, cada voz rompe el ruido, se alza feroz. Manos digitales.
Not just for a company or a city. We're talking about a plan that's shaping the future for an entire region. So, quick question for you. Where do you think the world's very first regional internet governance forum happened? You know, the big meeting to decide the rules of the internet for a whole area. If your mind immediately went to Silicon Valley or maybe somewhere in Europe, well, you're going to want to stick around. Nope, it was in the Caribbean. That's right, a genuine global first. They were the ones who set the precedent, showing how an entire region could come together to map out its own digital destiny. And, you know, this wasn't just some one-off thing. We're talking about a nearly 2-decade-long journey. It all kicked off with that pioneering forum way back in 2005. Then you see the first policy framework drop in 2009. It gets updated to align with the CARICOM single ICT space. The pandemic in 2020 just lit a fire under everything. And now we're at the 19th forum and the 4th edition of their policy framework. I mean, that's a serious long-term commitment to staying ahead of the game. So you might be hearing this term internet governance and wondering, what on earth is that? Well, think of it like this. It's basically the rules of the road for the internet. It's not one single group making all the decisions. Instead, it's this big conversation between governments, the private sector, the tech companies, and civil society, which is really just us. It's how we all agree on the shared principles and procedures that shape how the internet grows and is used. And all of this work, all these meetings and policies, they're not just happening for fun. They're all pointed toward this really powerful, unifying vision. This is the why behind it all. The goal is to create a Caribbean that's a knowledge-based, digitally empowered, inclusive society. It's about being leaders on the global stage. That's a huge, ambitious goal, and it's the driving force behind every single decision. Okay, so if that big vision is the why, then these guiding principles, well, this is the how. This is the DNA of the whole operation. And what's really important here is that it's not about some top-down, heavy-handed control. It's the opposite. It's all about inclusivity, making sure everyone has a seat at the table. It's about flexible policies, fairness, and building up everyone's skills. The idea is to have rules that both protect people and encourage new, cool ideas. These are the core values, the bedrock of the whole thing. All right, we've got the why, the vision. We've got the how, the principles. So now, let's get to the what. What are they actually doing? The entire plan is built on these 6 pillars for action. You can almost think of them as 6 major projects for building this new digital society, covering everything from the physical cables in the ground to the code of conduct online. And where do you start? Well, you have to start with pillar 1, infrastructure. It makes perfect sense, right? You can't have a digital society if people can't get online. This is the absolute foundation. The digital highways, the pipes, the connections. It's all about making sure everyone, and I mean everyone, has access to the internet that's both reliable and affordable. And check this out. This is what makes it so smart. It's not just some vague promise like, yeah, we'll get more internet to people. No way. The framework is super specific. It demands clear, documented targets and deadlines for what universal access actually looks like. It's about accountability. It's about turning a nice idea into a measurable, achievable reality. Okay, so the highways are being built. Now we move to pillar 2, which is like popping the hood and looking at the engine room. This is all about the technical side of things, the infrastructure and operations. It's not just about getting people online. It's about making sure that connection is fast, stable, and super secure. So here's a really cool concrete goal. They want to set up at least one Internet Exchange Point, or IXP, in every single country. Think of an IXP as a local post office for internet data. Right now, if you send an email to your neighbor across the street, that data might travel all the way to, say, Miami and back. It's crazy. With a local IXP, that email just goes directly across town. It keeps local traffic local, which makes the internet way faster, cheaper, and a lot more resilient for everyone. So we've got the infrastructure and the tech running smoothly. Next up, pillar 3, the legal stuff, the legal frameworks. This is all about setting the rules of engagement for the digital world. The whole point is to create an online space that's safe, predictable, and trustworthy, so that everyday people and businesses feel confident using it. And this means getting the laws up to speed with the 21st century. I mean, the internet has brought all these new challenges, right? So the framework calls for a massive effort to review, reform, and this is key, harmonize the laws across the whole region. We're talking about really serious issues here, like child online protection, the spread of misinformation, and making sure our basic human rights are protected online just as they are offline. Okay, the internet is now fast, it's reliable, it's safe. So now what? What do we actually do with it? That's where pillar 4 comes in, content development. This is so important. It's about shifting the mindset from just consuming what's on the internet to actively creating for the internet. It's about building a uniquely Caribbean digital culture and, of course, a thriving digital economy. And this goal is one of my favorites. They're pushing to digitize and back up national archives, historical records.
Una voz, una red, vamos a elevarnos. Desde las islas hasta las costas brillantes, voces compartir. El futuro es nuestro, listos para construir. Cada chispa, cada voz, rompe el ruido, se alza feroz. Mano a mano, la decisión es unirnos con visión.
Un Caribe, una red, siente el poder. Corazones latiendo al amanecer. En Varadero nos volvemos canción. Unidos por la transformación.
Nos logramos, brillamos, codificamos el cielo. En Cuba, en Varadero, soñamos sin miedo. Hoy ahora ve cuál es. Hoy ahora ve cuál es. Nos alzamos, brillamos, codificamos el cielo. En Cuba, en Varadero, soñamos sin miedo. Juventud creando compasión digital. El Caribe piensa en un lenguaje global. Ideas que fluyen al ritmo del mar. Cada clic nos vuelve a conectar. Oh, que los datos fluyan como...
Buenas tardes, una vez más. Estamos de vuelta para continuar con nuestra jornada de actividades en nuestro foro de gobernación.
Afternoon, once again, we are back to speak about governance of the Internet for the youth in the Caribbean. As we announced before the pause, we shall continue with panel number 3, women's empowerment in ICTs. We have learned something. Caribbean is having today technologies, but we also need diversity, inclusion, and women leadership. We have young people. We have Gabrielle Johnson. Round of applause for her. She's Vice President of the Network of the Technology of Information Youth in the Caribbean. We have also an associated of digital information from Trinidad and Tobago. We have the representative of Guyana. We also have the Director General of Informatics and Electronics, John Clubs, as well as Empowered Women Representative, and also the Director of Institutional Development in ETEXA. It's a panel with a lot of representatives.
Y las mujeres empoderadas de Texas.
ETEXA and Telecommunications and Communications of the Caribbean. Where are they? Raise your hands. Okay, let us enjoy this moment.
And welcome to panel 3, Women Empowerment in ICTs. So today, this conversation will spotlight the critical role of women in shaping the future of ICTs across the Caribbean. We'll hear from these wonderful ladies here and online, and we will hear from these wonderful ladies here who are not only making an impact in their own countries, but also championing the inclusion and inspiring the next generation of ICT leaders. Right? So our discussion will bring together both local and global perspectives and explore practical strategies for empowering women to lead in the digital ecosystem. So I want to get the ball rolling since we're a bit strapped for time. So my first question will be for Ms. Ana Lacey. So in the Cuban telecommunications sector, women's representation in leadership roles is an important marker for progress. Could you share with us how many women currently hold key positions at the national telecommunications operator, and what steps are being taken to strengthen gender balance and women's advancement in such a critical company? Okay. Over to you.
Gracias, thank you. Buenas tardes para...
Good afternoon, to all participants. Of course, as we have said before, my name is Ana Lacey. I'm an engineer. I'm from the young women's group in this event. I'm an engineer in telecommunications. I graduated in the year 2008. I have two sons. And I work in the telecommunications enterprise in Cuba. I have some positions in that company, and I'm working in communications area at this point. This is an enterprise that have kept for years a policy of inclusion and equity and rights to education for women, and we have been able to play a good role in this organization. I'm the first Cuban who is making some remarks in this panel, who shall speak about Cuban context. In our country, we have a program for the advancement or for the progress of women approved by a presidential decree in the year 2021 and focused in 7 main pillars for the empowerment, economic empowerment, education, health, sexual and reproduction topics for women, as well access to information. Some important information is that Cuba has same opportunities for men and women, for boys and girls in primary and elementary education, in pre-university education and high education. We have more participation of women compared to the participation of men in pre-university and university education. And those in higher education, in technical careers, in technical studies, we know that up to the year 2023, the report we have shows that 27% of women were in technical careers. So we shall be talking about our specific situation, the situation in our company, in our enterprise. 75% of workers in telecommunications company are women. More than 8,500 women, and 74% of this total, this amount, are in technical positions, let's say programmers, specialists on telematics. 74% of them are dealing with some of these disciplines, and they are, of course, the natural origin or source for leaders to be in the organization. In the medium and high positions of the company, women have a very important participation in different departments, in provincial divisions, in technical areas, in business areas, and that includes some responsibilities of head of technical units, and in key positions in our company we have women today who are leading the traffic and optimization of the telecommunication network traffic in Cuba, and a woman leading that department studied with me in university. We have, of course, as well the Center for Data Services. That woman who is in charge of that department, that division, is 26 years old, and in the department where we have the development of platforms and operations of the network is also a woman heading that department. And we have Department of Innovation, let's say, the person leading that division, that group, that department related to innovation matters in the company is a 27-years old woman. And one way or another, this is the way the positions are in the company. So in the main positions of the enterprise, we also have women in important positions. The main positions of the executive division made up of the CEO of the company and the main responsibility of first vice presidents and operation presidents and vice president, commercial operations. 71% of them are women. And for us, it's a reason to be very much proud, because it's an interesting figure. It's an important amount of women in these high positions in the company. A person I know, she graduated in the Polytechnical Institute, in the Polytechnical University. She started working in the enterprise in our company, and very quickly she was promoted to be the chief of a telephone center or call center, and then she started leading everything related to the metropolitan network. I mean, I'm talking about the network what used to be the capital of Cuba, and then She was promoted to higher responsibilities, getting to lead the structure of ETEXA, which is the telecommunications company in Cuba. And then, because of the results she had in her place of work, she had some other positions, and now she is the Minister of Telecommunications in Cuba. I sometimes talk to my colleagues and I say that from communications who made some assessment dealing with trade brands and analysis, and we sometimes wonder, how do you see this company if we analyze the enterprise? And they say, people answer, the enterprise per se is a woman. We see that as a woman. That speaks about the importance of women in our enterprise in ETEXA. So to strengthen all the gender balance and to keep all the achievements we have a special health system or project in the enterprise, and we have anti-stress programs. We have as well, these applied specifically for women. We have as well some projects to deal with women after COVID-19 moments. And we also have the creation of casitas infantiles, it means children, little houses, which are similar to daycare centers. It's an interesting project, the one we are having in different provinces, and that is precisely for the sons and daughters of women and men working in our enterprise. That's the way we give services and take care of our children, and we also take children from the community. We also have health problems prevention. We have participation of women from our enterprise in the Orange Day. That is a day, the 25th of every month, in which we promote protection to women, the non-discrimination of women in our country. And from the viewpoint of communication, which is indeed the core of our participation, and my job is crucial to meet the main tasks given to achieve an impact and sustainable impact of the result we have achieved. We are able to change cultural views, showing real women who are having these positions, and from the communication point, we usually exchange about the lifestyle of cybersecurity specialists, all of them women, of directors and heads of divisions, and all that, showing that after behind a woman who has these high responsibilities, we have a mother, we have a daughter, we have a woman that have all the responsibilities, and one way or another we would like everyone to know what is happening with these women, who these women are, who these talented women are in our enterprises. So we feel that they feel that their contribution is highly valued, which is so much important for the working places, for the work, the job context. And it's important to have women, in these positions, because it is also attractive for those women to have these positions in the enterprises they work in. We women like to be accepted. We women like to have our contributions accepted and valued, and we like to be an inspiration for coming generations, of course. And everything we publish in the television, the information we give to the population, it's important because young girls are also seen on TV, on the spots on TV. All this information about young women who have important positions, leading positions in our companies, and that is, of course, of interest for girls to have technical careers, And we are also changing the internal policy of our institutions, and we are also in contact with the external world. That is a way to link what we are doing domestically with the country policy, which is seen in the whole country. This is what I wanted to share. I don't know if you have any question. Thank you so much.
Excelente. Thank you so much for those insights. And it's so encouraging to see how representation at senior levels is being addressed within such a major institution. And because I'm a firm believer that, having women in decision-making roles not only shapes company culture, but also helps set the tone for the wider ICT ecosystem. So thank you so much, Lacey. So I'll be going on to my second panelist who's online, Ms. Jael Goddard. So Jael, you recently completed the ITU Now Empowering Women Leaders Mentorship Program. Could you tell us a bit about the program, how it was structured, who your mentor was, and what the experience was like for you? What did you gain from the mentorship? And how did you think programs like this can benefit other young women in the Caribbean who aspire to be leaders in ICT? Over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure. Just give me one sec. So, as Gabrielle mentioned, I would have had the pleasure to participate in the ITU's mentorship program. My mentor was Dr. Caroline Wamala Lafson from Eswatini, and she resides in Sweden. So something that the previous panelists would have also spoken to is not just representation or connectivity of women, but the meaningful representation. So yes, we know women are getting these jobs, but what about the leadership positions, the technical and so forth? And so what stood out to me the most in my experience was that this mentorship program, the way in how it was structured and the support that I received, it was meaningful mentorship. Because many of my peers who also participated, they would have experienced it in a different way than I would. But my mentor, she went beyond the 30 minutes, 4 sessions that the program would have required. And I got 2 sessions a month, an hour long. And even after we went through all of the topics, we still meet. I would be meeting with her next week. And so from the very beginning, she said, I want to pay it. I want to pay it back. I was a recipient of mentorship. I had women who would have poured into me. And now being in this position of leadership, I have a responsibility to do the same. And so she was very generous with her time, very generous with her knowledge, and sharing that unique female perspective in such a way that it created a safe space. It allowed me to identify myself in this space. I remember we had a session and she said, you're a young woman in STEM. Like, you have so much to contribute. There's other young girls who they can't imagine themselves being in a career like this. They don't have access to even the knowledge that these type of jobs exist. And after our session, I sat down and I was like, I am a young woman in STEM. And it's not something that I would have phrased that way or considered, because being on the more international relations policy side, it's always like, oh, I'm not a technical person. But in these conversations with her, I was able to not only feel empowered, but also understand my identity and the role that I also have as a young woman to also inspire the upcoming generation, to let them know these things exist and women who look just like them, just from the Caribbean and from these same spaces exist. And so I think the program was just such a powerful empowering one, because it really not only allowed me to develop that personal capacity, but also understand how I can impact the lives of others. And so that's the next step. And it definitely does speak to the sustainability of it. And I would say, like, I know this isn't exactly the question, but just to add as well, being in these spaces and having persons like my manager, Mrs. Shellyan Clark Hines, you are coming face to face with these women who, in real time, are changing the perceived dynamic and understanding these preconceived notions of what it means and who these women are that are in leadership in the ICT landscape, and understanding that there is space for you, and very much so the women that are in these positions, they are championing you to also join them. Thank you, Gabby. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Jael. And I could certainly echo some of those experiences, because I too was a part of the mentorship program and I had a very similar experience to Jael. So I think it's pretty clear that mentorship programs like the ITU now can be a real game changer for emerging leaders like ourselves, especially when they provide both the skills, training, and a really safe space to build our confidence. So Jael, I thank you for that. So I will now move on to Miss Jennifer Budu, who is online. So Jennifer, from your work within the Guyanese government, what kinds of programs or initiatives do you think are most needed to strengthen the leadership capacity of young women in ICT and telecommunications? And importantly, how can these programs also reach and empower young women in indigenous communities where connectivity and access can be more challenging? Over to you.
Thank you so much for asking that question, and thank you so much to the folks over at CTU for having me. Can you guys hear me? If you can give me a thumbs up if you can. It's clear. Great. So, such a great question, such an interesting question, and I must say I love the fact that I always see women in technology. I might sound a bit biased here, but usually in my background for communications and outreach within the Office of the Prime Minister in Guyana, I would usually tell the girls that we would have conversations with sensitization, awareness programs, and even training. And I'm going to quote a singer here. I usually say, "Who run the world? Girls." And that's what I usually want to start off with. So before we touch on what I would like to see, I'd also like to share my experience. Like I mentioned, my background is communications, but as a communications professional within the ICT sector, I've been to basically the top of the map and even so the bottom of the map of Guyana, and I've seen what the government of Guyana is doing, but I also know that there are ways that we can strengthen the capacity of young women as leaders in the ICT space, particularly those from our indigenous communities. So before I can touch on what should be done, I think I like to reflect on what is being done from the government of Guyana's perspective, and also from the perspective of a staff or someone from the public service sector. So over the 5 years, let's touch on the 5 years specifically. Over the 5 years, Guyana has taken a meaningful step and a meaningful ways to expand ICT access. And when I say that, we're seeing policy plans dealing with ICT in education, and also there is the ICT master plan that is being drafted as we speak. These plans now outline efforts to increase digital literacy within the schools, and also training capacities for teachers as well. There's also the government of Guyana, what they did, they introduced the Guyana Online Academy of Learning, and that is completely free for persons who fit the criteria. They apply and they have access to free tertiary education apart from our national university, which is the University of Guyana. So once you fit the criteria, you can apply and become a scholarship student. In that way, when you give free education to overseas-based universities, it opens the door for thousands of Guyanese men and also women. And many of them are young women like myself who took the opportunity to expand our knowledge and also to pursue online degrees and also for professional training. But while I touch on the young professionals, I'm also going to take a step back. We're also working with persons who have limited knowledge in coding and programming, where is the 1000 Coders Initiative. That's also another program of the government of Guyana, which is free, where persons are learning how to code and program at their own pace, but they're working with professionals. We also have the coding school that we're working with young people. Apart from training, there are also ICT hubs, and we're going to touch on those ICT hubs that are located within the hinterland areas, and that is done through the ICT access and e-services for hinterland, poor, and remote communities, whereas we have a location where persons can come. And given Guyana's terrain, far-flung communities can come and have access to free government Wi-Fi, and not only free government Wi-Fi, but also have access to computers that they can use they can teach themselves at coding programs, they can join on to their Gold Scholarship training programs, they can also do research, whatever they want to do is access there for them. So those are just ways that young people could create a foundation, and that's ways that how the government is creating a foundation for young people to build their digital skills. Apart from training, we also go into the fields of sensitization and awareness. I believe it's important for young people to see people that look like us and relate to persons. And this is where the Industry and Innovation Unit, the department that I'm attached with, that falls within the Office of the Prime Minister, deals with young people and also deals with the novice and also deals with persons who have the experience. So we have ways in which we can showcase our technological skills and also people can relate to us. For example, there is the Technology Concept Sprint, a new program that we introduced this year where we went out to regions that are a bit remote. We didn't focus on the capital city of Georgetown, the capital city of Guyana, rather. We focus on regions that we know persons feel or do not feel as if they're seen, and we give them the opportunity to create a concept and where technology could tackle a community problem. And from there, they work with mentors, and those mentors help them to craft their production or their prototype and helping them to see that, hey, I can make a start. And that's what we want to do for young people. And that's what we see it's so important. Apart from the concept sprints, we also had our annual hackathon. And the great part about the hackathon, we see persons who are novice and see persons who are so experienced that they have the opportunity to create a working prototype within the 72 hours. Just last year, we had a team led by a female that won. And I think that was fantastic to see that. We're seeing more women join on to these competitions. I can make mention that we also have teams that are only women, and these are teachers, these are trainers, these are persons with a passion for coding coming to participate. Some have the exposure, some have no exposure, but they want to learn to code. They want to create something. So they're working with persons with the experience to create something that is great. And those are just a few things that we're doing to make sure that women feel seen and women are targeted, and to showcase that women do have the power in Guyana to create that change, given that we sometimes see technology or the ICT sector as a male-dominated field. And if I may add, in my department, the Industry and Innovation Unit, I am the only female within the department, apart from our officers who are in different regions. So I work in a male-dominated field, and I have to make sure that my part is being made. But apart from all these programs that we are doing, I have noticed there is always going to be gaps. There is always going to be some way of improving those gaps. So from my aspect, and I'm speaking from my professional experience, access alone is not enough. While we give persons access to free Wi-Fi, government Wi-Fi, we're giving persons access to computers, we're sharing that space of persons to train other people, because we also deliver free training in intermediate, advanced, and also basic. We know, and we also notice from my capacity, that while many young people are learning digital skills, fewer are being prepared to take on leadership roles in ICT. And that was just one of the highlights in the past presentation. So I know that these things do happen. We are aware of it. because lack of limited connectivity, cultural expectations, these are things that we have to fight on a day-to-day basis. And like I mentioned, we want to see more women within this field, and sometimes we might not see women dominating, so we cannot relate to what is happening. And if we are to truly see young people stepping into these leadership roles, I believe we can go beyond training, we can go doing mentorship, networking opportunity, and this cannot be a one-stop shop. It has to be continuous, and it also has to be applied in a real-world context. The conversation cannot end today. It has to be continuous, and also the persons who are participating in the conversation and the mentorship, they must have the passion to continue learning. So when I think about recommendations and moving forward, from my aspect or from my position within the field, given my background is not technology but communications, real world solutions should be applied. I could think about mentorship and leadership, networking. It's so important, not just having a 2-hour function and having some persons in a room and discussing what should be done, and then that's the end of it. I believe if we could target, and not only in a context of Guyana, but also regionally, pairing young women with ICT professionals and leaders, both locally, like I mentioned, locally and internationally, to guide their career paths. Well, in speaking from a perspective of Guyana, there is the scholarships and there are the programs offering free tertiary education. If we could have targeted scholarship for those persons that driven for persons within the indigenous communities, there's just one aspect we can better connectivity, and also with the question that you asked, I can read it out there, supporting young indigenous women, and that's so important that we do. Also, moving forward, tech incubators are important. While we know that creating a safe space for persons within the technology realm, it has to be done. We can connect via Zoom, but sometimes you just need that in-person connection. So I believe like helping persons in that space where it is developed startups, accessing funds in the digital economy, and also allowing persons to have community-based ICT labs. Basically, apart from the ICT hubs, we also have these ICT labs that are designed and making sure that learning is practical and also cultural relevant. Well, English is our national language, and sometimes the Creole is what we speak in Guyana. With the indigenous communities, sometimes there is the dialect that is a broken barrier. So it would be great if we could incorporate the indigenous dialect with what we're learning in the modern world and put these two together. So I believe that being culturally inclusive is important. So if we can include ICT training, local languages, partnering with community leaders, which is what we do sometimes, but more needs to be done from my aspect or from my personal view as well, and also trying to work with persons continuously. I know time is of the essence, but in closing, I do believe that Guyana is moving in the right direction, and I've seen the government of Guyana is combining, and I've seen it, that we're combining government's investments with targeted mentorship. We're seeing inclusive scholarships being done throughout the country as well, and hopefully we can work towards like culturally grounded ICT initiatives within these indigenous communities can prepare our young women, and especially our indigenous young women, towards the path to technology or ICT. And this is not just a stop. We don't want them to not only participate in digital economy, but we want them to lead it. Like I said, women run the world. We do so with our jobs. We do so with family. We do so being the backbone of community. And I think this is just one way we can continue to do so, because technology can connect us, but it can also make us a bit distant. And there's just one way we can close that gap and making everyone feel seen. So I believe that when young women, including those from the indigenous communities, step into leadership roles in ICT, the entire nation, the entire region can definitely benefit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that really informative response. You know, I'm really impressed by what Guyana has done and is currently doing. And I think that's such a critical point about bridging the connectivity gap for the indigenous communities. And I believe that it's not just about access to the internet, you know, but about access to opportunities. and leadership pathways, that could really change the lives of the youth. So thank you so much for that response. So I go on to Medellins. So the Youth Computer and Electronics Club has been a strong example of how community-led institutions can foster digital literacy. What role does your organization play in building leadership skills among young Cuban women in the digital space? And can you tell us about some of these specific programs or success stories that you've seen? Over to you.
Sorry. Primero quisiera dar una breve introducción de
I would like to say what are these youth clubs on informatics and electronics in Cuba and the importance of these clubs for our country. These clubs are a network of technological centers. There are more than 600 distributed all over Cuba that were founded by our Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro Ruz in September 1987. So, next September, we are going to celebrate our 38th anniversary, in which we have been working very hard to develop technological skills in our children, adolescents, young people, adults, people, disabled people as well, because if we are going to talk about these centers, and if we are going to talk about digital transformation, we have to mention inclusion. And these clubs have a key role in the digital literacy and in the development of the leadership of our young people, young women. From the virtual and physical scenarios, we provide access to technologies, but also we create safe environments in which young people can participate and they can explore, learn. We have different projects where our young women participate. In 2023, with the bancarization process carried out in our country, we had the digital literacy campaign. This campaign was aimed at being with the clients and the citizens in this digital transformation that was taking place in our country. And we have provided these services for more than 1 million Cubans in the development of skills, digital skills, in the Cuban population, and this is also provides a better quality of life. Our young women are involved in science, technology, and innovation projects. So they are not only promoting ICTs, but they also carry out actions, because this is the most important part, that they are part of this development and they have very good results. The results we wanted to achieve with this transformation digital process. Also, young people take part in AI projects and workshops. Actually, we have a female young person that she wants to resolve problems from the community level, but also she tries to solve the problems through providing solutions to the public policies of our country. For example, there is a young female person that is working in a project based on AI. So she, in that project, she's the leader of that project. Also, we have a very important space. Here in Cuba, we pay very much attention to it, and we celebrate Children's Day in TICs. So this day is very important for us because we not only work on training, but also professional training of our young female people. So this is important, and our Minister of Communications is working very hard that she never misses these days. Also, this is important to say that the Cybersecurity Day, in the last 10 days of November, the young female leaders are the ones who foster a culture on cybersecurity, not only for young women, but also for the whole population. So we promote the empowerment of women in areas that traditionally are dominated by men. So I'm part of the team in which all the members are women, so sometimes I'm scared. And this team, this work team, is in charge of helping, boosting ICTs and how we can use some elements, and also how we can carry out the digital transformation in our country. And 40% of all these teams are women in relation to the higher positions. So 62% of all these positions are held by women. So this figure has been increasing throughout the years. We have a gender-based focus. We started in 2023 as part of a scientific event that we develop in our country. We created the first gender team in which our female children took part in this, and also young women who were the leaders of this team. Our minister also was involved in this project. She has an active role in this. When we developed this event for the first time, so something wonderful happened. But also we have to provide these opportunities for children because they have to learn that women have the same rights and everything that women wants to go in their lives, they are able to do it. Our young women not only get technical skills, but also they develop leadership skills, critical thinking, and social commitment. And this is very important. In this sense, these clubs are a strategic platform to boost talent, creativity, and the voices of young Cuban women as active actors in a more inclusive, digital, and safe digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Marie-Elise. I'm really happy to hear that the JCCE is doing so much for women. And, I think that community is a catalyst for digital leadership. And it's really a reminder that when young women gain digital skills in supportive local environments, they can go on to lead on, national and even international stages. So thank you so much for what you're doing. So last but not least, I would like to pose this question to Miss Swanee. I got it right? Good, great. So we've heard about participation, but leadership and innovation are also critical. How can technical communities and professional unions like the Cuban Computer Scientists Union go beyond just including women in their membership to actively positioning them as leaders and innovators? And I also understand that the UIC has been working on establishing gender laboratories related to AI and innovation projects. So could you explain how this initiative works and how it promotes women's participation in technology, innovation, and governance in Cuba? Over to you.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good everyone, thank you. My name is Cyigf, and I represent the Cuban network of women entrepreneurs that was invited by the Union of IT Experts in Cuba. This is the reason behind the question that was asked of me. Partnerships are indispensable in order to meet the targets of women's empowerment in the digital and other economic areas. In this case, we are talking about empowering women financially, particularly in the private sector ventures. Therefore, these are women who do not have digital competences or have very little competences, and therefore they are afraid of starting up, because they are wives and mothers and caretakers, and they also have the need or desire to open up, a business, with or without knowledge or support. In Cuba, there are a number of public policies. And my predecessors have spoken about the visible and tangible results from there. So we can see, results in our communities. So the partnership with nationwide institutions is critical, because our network is a project that has presence in 8 provinces here, and it has 800 members, but it is very young. And in order for it to operate and meet its objectives, it must partner with other government institutions and NGOs that can, because we are supported by UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women, and so that all of the communities that have so many distinct features and necessities, there's a specific example. For example, there is a project in the province of Las Tunas in order to empower, rural women in digital competences. Rural women have fewer opportunities in Cuba. There are still communities in which, there are high rates of digital illiteracy, and so women are lagging behind because they are, bred, because they bring home because they are household leaders, and therefore we need to bring all of the representatives of other institutions in order to enrich processes and have a feedback environment and maximize, resources for delivery to women and communities, because the power that is vested in a woman is then it spills over into the community. All of the skills that a woman, all of the skills that are available, who can be best transmitted of them than women, that can carry them to the community. So a number of projects are being executed that involve partnerships between these entities. That is this project of a Cuban network of women entrepreneurs and Union of IT experts in Cuba. And based on the results, we will be spreading out this project, and UNICEF as well as a Joven Club have been working in the teaching digital skills all over the country, and that they're also relying on AI on these efforts also. So we are also using UNICEF leaders, and we are establishing new communities in the provinces in which we don't have a formal group, so that so that we can have visibility and access, and so the network and all of the beneficiaries of the communities can start to learn how to read and write digitally, and then go beyond and go to the rural areas and maximize resources so as to get better results for their businesses and their households and all in all our country. And the second question was associated with the gender laboratory, which is being implemented by UNICEF. And this is critical too, because its approach goes to, it's about providing knowledge about digital knowledge and AI knowledge, with ethical approach, but it also includes digital governance, that is to use all of this knowledge for the purpose of society and make sure that these new children that we are training, who are looking at us, because in some aspects, there's more visibility. There are many women who are leadership in positions, but they have little visibility because we are making decisions, and we find a lot of women in leadership positions, but the girls don't hear about them, and they hear about other leaders. They don't see that in the private sector. It's a long road to travel there. So these gender laboratories, help visualize and establish connections, and it is very important that we network among all of the sectors, because interdisciplinary groups, are on the basis or the foundation of the system that we want to maximize and develop. So the first question was associated with the policies. So there are many decision makers who are women. There are many VPs and many leadership positions, like in many other institutions. Many organizations are being led by women, and that is who are women and these are women who are caretakers and mothers and housewives, and may have other personal aspirations beyond their careers. However, they are decent examples of leaders, but they are not. They do not receive this visibility. So our girls need to see that beyond these spectacular women in history, like Marie Curie, that do not have enough visibility in Cuba. There are many women in the history of Cuba that have contributed to the different processes here, literacy campaigns and any processes that include ICTs. We are not just talking about women's leadership, in ICTs, but there are women are present in every area. Therefore, whatever skills that we develop, we'll make sure that we'll live a better life, because technology is an ally. Sometimes we're afraid of it. Sometimes we do not use it properly, but technologies are an ally. The more we become aware of it, the better our results will be in the short, medium, and long terms. Muchas gracias.
So the concept of a gender laboratory in tech innovation to me is pretty fascinating, and it's really encouraging to see really structured efforts to really integrate women's perspectives right at the heart of AI and emerging technology development. So thank you so much for that, right? Okay, so we are at the end of the panel, and unfortunately we can't take any questions. So feel free to ask your questions. If you see the panelists walk by, feel free to go to them. So thank you to all the panelists in person and online for your insights, and to the audience for joining us in this important conversation. It's clear that while progress has been made, there's a lot of work we have to do, and from strengthening mentorship to reaching underserved communities to ensuring women are not just present, but leading and shaping the digital space. So let's continue to collaborate, innovate, and ensure that women's voices are heard and valued at every single table. I thank you.
La foto, por favor, nuestro fotógrafo que se acerque con nosotros para que...
We need a photographer to come here. By the look of many of the participants here, I see that they are excited. I live in a world that is led by women. And while I was sitting there, I have learned a lot, not only from the Gender Laboratory, but all of the things you're doing to change the world through initiatives and partnerships anywhere, not only in Cuba, but also the Caribbean and the world. So let us put our hands together for all of the women who are braving obstacles and saying that yes, I can. I have no limits. Thank you wholeheartedly. Thank you. The photo op.
Es increíble las historias que conectan.
Yeah, it's incredible that we hear all these life stories, from the Caribbean. And here we're talking about technologies and communications, and ours is a fragmented world. So we need to listen to each other so we can establish solid partnerships. So as we talk about future inclusion and leadership, let me now invite those who have to wage, our next battles, our young people. Panel 4 will talk about the outlook of the youth in global forums, moderated by Gargolda virtually, and we will be talking about that is from ICTs and AI department in TNT, and we will have other people who are leaving an imprint in international forum, from the UN Secretariat in Geneva, Chegan Rosary, based in St. Lucia, Elaine Grenera-Alberna, specialist in foreign relations from the Cuban Ministry of Communications, and Lester Emil Hernandez, experts in international agencies and bilateral cooperation from ETEXA. Those who are here in person, please join us at the podium, and this panel is critical. We will hear about the future as well as the active present and the role played by the young people in the changes that are occurring in these international forums. Good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our panel, Youth Perspectives on Global Flora, GDC, WSIS, IGF, and so forth. I'm Jael Gordon, and I'm excited to guide today's discussion. So we'll kick it right off with Mr. Shirgan Roseri. You wear multiple hats, a business owner and a youth envoy for both the ITU Generation Connect as well as Caribbean ICT Youth Network. Based on these experiences, what role do you think that you can play in the implementation of the GDC and at high-level events such as WSIS Plus 20 and IGF? Private sector organizations play in supporting governments' implementation of the GDC.
Yes,
Over to you, Shivan.
Thank you for that question. So I think youth has a really critical role to play across these initiatives. So I guess for me, just a little bit of my background. Back in 2021, I think I would have become a Generation Connect youth envoy, and that was really, one of the first times that I got to participate at an international youth event through the ITU. And I think what that really did is it gave me a platform to interact with high-level decision makers, especially in the telecom space, and it exposed me to not only different cultures but different ideas across across the world, and seeing how those different cultures and youth were implementing technologies in their own space. I think youth have a critical role to play because youth bring the creativity and the energy that is needed to really drive some of these initiatives home. So, for example, with my company Optronics, back then in 2020, we had just maybe been a year in operation, and now it's been 5 years. And right now we've just had signed some partnerships with the government of St. Lucia and the IDB and the European Union to host incubator programs, not only in St. Lucia, but some of the Eastern Caribbean islands, essentially to help incubate businesses, help drive their strategies, help them grow, help them build scalable businesses that can be investable. I say all this to say that back then it was a vision that I had for the future of the Caribbean, that I wanted to build a Caribbean where tech entrepreneurs feel empowered and enabled to grow tech businesses. And when I say tech businesses too, that does not just include the traditionally digital native businesses, but all businesses can be tech enabled as well. And I wanted to build a future where entrepreneurs and businesses felt empowered, especially in the Caribbean region, to integrate technologies and scale to be able to solve global problems like those. And I mean, in the early stages, there were naysayers, but platforms like the ITU Generation Connect, and even with the support of the CTU, for example, they really made us feel empowered that these ideas were not crazy and that youth are the change makers for the future. So I think when it comes to implementing and engaging at initiatives like this, I think youth have a critical role to play because we bring some of these ideas that have traditionally been seen as not being possible or too, I guess, difficult to execute. And we come in with a fresh pair of eyes and we say, if it hasn't been done, maybe it just hasn't been done yet. So, thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Shugan. That was a powerful reminder of the multifaceted role you can play, not just as participants, but like you said, in shaping the digital policy and the futures as well. This brings us perfectly to our next speaker who can offer an additional perspective. Ms. Henholm. Thank you so much, Anya. So, my question for you, sorry, just give me a second. Based on your involvement in the NRI coordination, how have youth IGFs around the world been working together towards contributions to the WSIS Plus 20 and GDC?
Thank you so much for the question. And since this is the first time that I'm speaking, I would like to, at the beginning, sincerely thank the organizers for the invitation. I want to congratulate the Caribbean Youth IGF. I think it's safe to say this has been a very successful forum this year, now with this concluding panel. And sincerely to thank you for the invitation to the Secretariat, not just for this panel, but really for continuous cooperation throughout the year. You know, these types of processes are a result of a hard work happening throughout the year by the community with a very specific role of the multi-stakeholder organizing committee, of the coordinators, of course, of the CTU, as I call them a neutral secretariat, really the carrier of this process. And I think it's important to recognize that it wouldn't happen without hard work of so many people. That's a very good question, and I think it comes in a critical moment, because we are now in a moment where we really have the opportunity as a global community, all of us from our domains, to make a concrete change. This is the year of what we call the WSIS Plus 20 review, and I'm pretty sure here everyone is aware, but as you know, this is the 20th year since the initial World Summit on the Information Society, which also gave birth to the IGF, among many other outcomes, but the IGF was one of the major outcomes. When you look back 20 years, it's always interesting to see how things have changed really dramatically. It's not just that we've let the digital technologies to change and to advance, but the community really reacted. And although the change of digital technologies has been very quick, and sometimes it's difficult to keep pace, I wouldn't say that this community has let the things to just happen. It really worked hard to keep the pace with the technological development and to develop the mechanisms through which we can address them to ensure that there is a good governance system in place governing the use of digital technologies, their deployment, and essentially the way it impacts us and our human rights and our everyday life. And speaking of those mechanisms, the concept of the youth IGFs is something that is probably most vivid in terms of the organic, self-organized community effort coming from young people saying, we don't need those who already have this power of decision-making to tell us what to do, because we know what to do. Just because, especially the newer generations that are coming, they are born technically with the technology, so they can't even recall the time when they didn't use the technologies, and that makes a huge change. So far, if you look at the Tunis Agenda for the Information Society, it really mentions explicitly the importance of working with young people and for young people in two major contexts. The first one is capacity development, saying that we need to build capacity in ICTs by all, for all, including young people among other stakeholders. But it also speaks about the concept of inclusion and of safeguards, of regulatory and self-regulatory mechanisms. In the 20 years after, in this evolution, things have changed a little bit. So it's not anymore about, as I said, us that currently hold certain positions with our work portfolio, where we need to establish certain systems to support young people. But it's really now that we are in a process where there are mechanisms in place that organically came from the community, where young people are now in a position to participate as equals in the processes that relate to the ways we want the digital technologies to be governed, coming from their experiences, coming from the experiences of the environments where they live, understanding that digital now is not anymore exclusive to certain groups, and it's not anymore reserved for certain sectors. It's really integrated in all the sectors. And our social, political, economic development, cultural development is really now directly tied to it. So having said that, I think the WSIS Plus 20 review, which will come to a final decision-making point in December during the General Assembly high-level event, will be that point of clarity, we hope, where we will see exactly how the member states see the role, concrete role of young people now having these mechanisms that developed over the years through, for example, the concept of the youth IGFs or the national and regional IGFs overall that have dedicated youth engagement programs. You mentioned in your question the Global Digital Compact. This is also a very important mechanism that emerged in the past 2 years, and last year it was finally adopted by the member states. It also, as a construct, speaks about the importance of young people, and we are hoping that in December the WSIS Plus 20 will really bring a powerful response to how to harness what already we have, which are good mechanisms, as I said, established by young people. And then going forward, as of 2026, in the future, what will be the specific role of these youth IGFs. I'm very happy always to confirm that during this consultations period on the WSIS Plus 20 review, young people, especially including the youth IGFs as mechanisms gathering young people from around the world in various communities, have responded already to those consultations. So if you look, for example, at the contributions to the current elements paper that was produced by the co-facilitators, Kenya and Albania, then you will see a number of contributions coming from the youth IGFs, including a joint contribution, which really speaks clearly about concrete actions that are needed. We will see how the member states will recognize this, but I think the homework by the youth IGFs has already been done, by saying and using this momentum of the consultations, this is what we want, this is what we can do, and these are the mechanisms we already have in place. My advice certainly would be to continue the good work, and I think that's very important. Although the decision-making formally speaking, is with the member states. Let's not forget that decision-making is informed by multi-stakeholder consultations. And the more closely you work with the government, specifically in your country, then certainly the outcome is more, I would say, more expected in terms of the recognition of young people. And maybe to give you one concluding example, I think the host country of the 21st Caribbean IGF is certainly a good example. We have been cooperating through the IGF with the community of Cuba for years, and I'm happy to always have Juan Fernandez here as a pioneer in the WIGIC process, so knows WISUS by heart, and he was part of the decision making. And this country is a good example of putting together cooperation between the government as a decision making in certain processes and other stakeholders as well. And I'm happy to see so many young people, particularly coming from Cuba, saying that the country is going even forward by engaging young people in these processes, which is very important to ensure that the digital policy going forward really reflects the needs and demands of young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anya. It's inspiring to hear how youth IGFs around the world are not only mobilizing locally, but also contributing across regions to contribute meaningfully to global processes like WISUS. So now we move on to you, Lane. And my question to you is, based on your work at MINCOM, in what ways has Cuba been leveraging youth to implement GDC? Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Elaine. Yes. Good afternoon, my name is Elaine Grenet. I am the specialist in the International Relations Division of the Ministry of Communications of Cuba. Before I start, I would like to thank the moderator as well as the CTU team for allowing me to be part of this panel. Answering the question, Cuba, as many other countries and international organizations, believes that the Digital Global Pact does not replace the results of the Global Summit on Information Society, but rather reinforces the achievements of the summit as part of the goals that we have set ourselves to in this strategy. Cuba has worked and is still working in these goals, and part of our work has to do with a process of Cuba works towards the attainment of goals, basically with a digital informatization process and a digital transformation in the country. A process we are in the midst of, and these, which is a higher stage today, and is seeking to move forward towards a higher echelon. Cuban youth are central, and their commitment and creativity is moving towards a more connective and technological Cuba, and especially a more inclusive Cuba. Youth has taken an important role in this purpose, and now we have an example, and it's the computer sciences youth clubs. The general director of these clubs preceded me, and she's part of the project that is a community-based clubs, which mission is to take access of ITs to the population at large, especially to the rural areas. So it seeks not just to promote knowledge, but it is improving and promoting a digital culture, enabling the public to work in the area of telecommunications. Computer Sciences Youth Club has a strategy in place to involve the population at large in these projects. It's not just to convey knowledge, but also to allow people to appropriate new technologies for the betterment of the local communities and to improve personal development as well. We're involved in a digital transformation process that has a participation of many different stakeholders with projects towards digitalization of different sectors, including healthcare, education, and e-government, and also solutions for intelligent or smart agriculture, all in line with sustainable development goals. The Cuban experience can be useful for the Caribbean youth since we have a collaborative approach moving towards a digital transformation that is not only based on access to technology, but also in capacity building, development of human capital, and a more just and equitable society.
Thank you so much, Ms. Auburn. Voice creates a space for you to contribute meaningfully. Your examples like community-based youth clubs show how intentional the government is truly being. And now we go on to our last panelist of the day, Mr. Hernandez. Lisa, my question to you. Objective 1 of the GDC focuses on closing the digital divides and accelerating progress across the SDGs. How has the ETESCA, as a local teleco, been working to bridge the digital divide and promote future deployment of technologies such as 5G, etc. in the Caribbean? Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this forum and this panel. And I would like to thank the moderator for the question. My name is Leidel Emil Hernandez. I am the specialist in international relations at the Cuban Telecommunications Company, and one of my roles is to take care of the relations of the company with international agencies and bodies. I will start from here. I will start from my area of expertise and to a broader approach. First, we work with the ITU and the Association of National Telecommunications Operators of the Caribbean. So, it is this is the example where you can see what ETEXA can do in the regional context to help in the closing of the digital gaps, and especially the expansion of 5G and other emerging technologies. ETEXA and these events that is are organized by Canto, which is the official name of the agency, has always supported all the initiatives that promote the development of communications infrastructures in the Caribbean. But I would like to refer in the answer to what ETEXA does internally, domestically here in Cuba, because this is where we have to start. To start talking about the compliance of the Global Tech Act, I believe that we must start emphasizing the formulation of the National Economic Development Program for the year 2030. It is a program designed in the year 2020, which main goal was to establish the schedule based on the compliance with the SDGs for the country in view of the year 2030. It has 6 strategic axes that contribute to the fulfillment of these goals. Each of them has a macro program defining the way the country will meet these targets. I will bring some examples to the table. Since our entity, our company, ETEXA, has an important impact in this. For example, It has an impact in the macro program for institutionality and microeconomy in that of productive transformation, the program for infrastructure, and the program for science, technology, and innovation. Each of these macro programs have a set of other projects where our company is involved. The development of these programs and projects where TEX is involved are reflected mainly as part of the strategic and yearly goals of the company. I would like to highlight the role that TEX has across the board as a single telecom operator in the country. Therefore, TEX is involved in every single macro program and their respective targets. I brought some examples of how this is a cross-section approach. For example, the deployment of infrastructure, the deployment of equipment to improve the national network with the relevant technological security. Also, the development of e-platforms. Transfer Mobile is one of them. The online stores and online services related to e-commerce and currently managed by Atexa, among other platforms. And last but not least, the improvements in terms of connectivity for the prioritized sectors. Now, there are other examples of how Atexa has reached or moved towards the development of telecom in Cuba. I would like to highlight some important landmarks in this regard. In 2008, the massive mobile services sale started in Cuba, and in 2018, internet access through mobile telephony phone services started. ADSL model services started 1 year later with the establishment of the Nauta Home services. In 2022, the submarine fiber optics cable was established, improving the 2G into the 4G connectivity. And in 2024, we were able to have more than 8 million users of mobile communications in Cuba. This somehow shows what Texas has been able to attain in such a short period of time. Now, in regards to the 5G network, among Texas' strategic goals, we intend to improve and upgrade the mobile network with the optic fiber to last mile optic fiber connectivity, and we are carrying out the relevant adjustments to have the first pilot test and also the deployment of this 5G network, especially in tourist destinations and resorts. First, our first goal is to establish a steady growth of 5G coverage, mainly in, let's say, important clusters with wireless services. These are just examples of the different programs and projects where TEX is involved, and they show what the company has been able to achieve and what we aspire to achieve in terms of the telecommunication services in Cuba. As part of these strategic goals, there is a priority in terms of the closing of the digital gap. It is part of our schedules, part of our strategic goals, and we are moving towards taking these opportunities to the rural areas, allowing to have 4G connectivity in the most remote areas of Cuba. Even though it is true that we have a long way to go as part of the strategic goals for the company in 2030, we still have many goals to attain. We have never renounced to improve telecommunications in Cuba. It is true also that this progress has been made according to our economic possibilities, since Not just the company, but the country has been impacted by an important global economic crisis, especially after the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. But there is another important element that hinders our development, that is the criminal U.S. blockade against Cuba. I would like to also mention another example of the commitment of ICTs with the development of telecoms in Cuba, and is the bet on youth as the main drivers of development and progress. We, youth, members and staff of this company are part of these development programs for the year 2030. We also participate in capacity building and training, and we attend international events on the areas of telecommunications and informatics. We are also involved in the development of e-commerce platforms, and together with the universities and youth working in the business sector in Cuba, both state-run and private, are connected to the development of platforms and applications that use open technologies and are homegrown towards the attainment of technological sovereignty. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Liz. It's really insightful and inspiring.
Muchas gracias, es muy inspirador y muy ilustrativo, especialmente tener en cuenta el papel activo que tienen los jóvenes en esta labor.
Objective 1 of the GDC requires not just ambition, but like you mentioned, cross-sectoral coordination. Thank you to all of our panelists and participants for such a rich and engaging discussion. Unfortunately, we do not have time to open the floor to any questions or for a wrap-up question, but it was my pleasure to be your moderator for this panel and to be joined by these lovely panelists. Thank you so much to CTU for affording me this opportunity as well. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your company this evening and the photo op. Before these fine young people leave, photographer. Thank you for your company this afternoon.
Ya. El aplauso para ellos. Hoy ha pasado algo curioso. Hemos hablado
Something's funny here. You know, we have spoken about the age here, and something valuable has also happened in these discussions. We have seen a dialogue, you know, an intergenerational dialogue here, you know, and so the different technological generations have been learning from the other generations. In order to close this meeting, let me invite Gabrielle Johnson, you know, VP from the Caribbean, to share her experiences and vision on what we have experienced this afternoon here.
Thank you,
Muchas gracias, Dairon. Buenas tardes a todos. Ha sido realmente un privilegio haber participado en estas conversaciones que nos han llevado acerca de las posibilidades en la transformación digital del Caribe y las realidades actuales de la resiliencia y la ciberseguridad.
To the invaluable perspectives of youth in shaping our role in the global fora. On behalf of the Caribbean ICT Youth Network, I extend sincere gratitude to all moderators, panelists, and participants, both in person and online, for the time, expertise, and insights you have so generously shared. A very special note of appreciation goes to the CTU, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, team for their steadfast partnership and leadership in fostering regional collaboration and creating platforms for youth engagement. In particular, I would like to thank Mr. Rodney Taylor, Secretary General of the CTU, for your unwavering commitment to including young people and amplifying our voices. It is deeply appreciated. To our gracious host, Cuba, we are especially thankful. Through the Ministry of Communications, your dedication to the coordination and planning of this event has been instrumental. Vice Minister, Ms. Eileen Fables Estrada, Ms. Isabel Grinup, Mr. Carlos Pereira, Mr. Juan Fernandez Gonzalez, and the entire Ministry of Communications team, we deeply appreciate your warm hospitality and tireless efforts in making this gathering such a success. Events like this remind us of the power of respect, dialogue, and collaboration across nations, disciplines, and generations. I also want to thank our hosts, Dr. Terry Carell Johnson and the beautiful Dairon, for bringing such energy and warmth, making each session lively, interactive, and engaging. As we look ahead, I especially encourage young, passionate individuals across our region to take an active role by registering with the Caribbean ICT Youth Network. It is a space where ideas turn into action and where your voice can directly shape regional and global ICT conversations. Together, we can strengthen youth leadership and build the digital future we want to see. In a month from now, we would be having 2 exciting workshops at the CTU ICT Week, which will be held in Kingston, Jamaica from the 29th of September to the 3rd of October. The 3rd ICT Youth Network meeting and the CTU Now leadership session. We invite all the youth, especially young women, to join either in person and online. Once again, heartfelt thanks to our hosts, partners, and all those who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make this event possible. I look forward to the ideas, actions, and collaborations that will continue to emerge from our time together. I thank you.
Ustedes hacen posible el sueño de seguir transformando el mundo y seguir
making it possible the dream of transforming the world that we, the Cubans, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of the entire organizing committee, we're also very grateful that you have chosen this place in order to discuss a topic that is part of the dreams of all of the Caribbean people, and similar remarks will be delivered by the Deputy Minister of Communications from Cuba, another young woman, from our team.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Rodney Taylor, Secretary General, Caribbean Telecom Union. Honorable Tariq Mohammed, Chairman of the 4th Internet Governance Forum for the Caribbean, representatives on the Caribbean international invitees, colleagues, friends, dear young people, leaders of the present and architects of the digital future of the Caribbean. We are closing a youthful session with a feeling of hope and belief. During our entire day, we have witnessed your energy, talent, and in particular, your commitment to the most urgent challenges of our digital era. You are not the distant future. You are the present in action. On behalf of Cuba, let me thank the Caribbean Telecom Union for relying on us as a host of this fourth Forum of Governance of the Internet for the Caribbean Youth and the 21st Caribbean Internet Governance Forum. This space is not just another event, it is an act of regional resistance, and it is also a demonstration that together By standing together, the Caribbean can exercise an influence on the global debate on the internet, technology, and sovereignty. We have discussed about AI for development, cybersecurity, gender equality, and young people's empowerment. And these are not just technical topics. They are also political and social. Because technology, when it is at the service of the people, it becomes a tool for sovereignty and humanism. For small island states such as ours, these dialogues are critical. Regional cooperation is our shield and our compass. In the face of global asymmetries, in the face of multinational threats such as cybercrime and our strength is in unity. Only through that will we be able to satisfy the SDGs of the 2030 agenda, which was discussed in our last panel here. Young people from the Caribbean, Cuba, renews to you our commitment to a democratic internet governance, which is also multilateral and is based on the international law. We reject any attempt of technological domination and the coercive use of telecommunications and manipulation of or gaslighting of the cyberspace for geopolitical purposes. We are for an open internet, an internet that is safe and accessible to everyone, men and women, as was agreed in Geneva and Tunisia. But we will not stop at the words, we need action. We also need public policies that will include men and women in the decision-making processes, as well as partnerships in order to create capacities in cybersecurity and AI and regulatory frameworks that will protect people rather than monopolies. You, young people, are critical in this purpose. Do not wait for permission to innovate. Do not underestimate your power to change realities. From Cuba, I can assure you that we shall continue to work with you. We shall continue to share experiences with you and strengthen networks and building together a cyberspace that will reflect the resilience and diversity of the Caribbean. This youthful forum is coming to an end, but our work will not stop. Please carry all of these ideas back home to your communities and turn our debate in code and projects and policies. The digital Caribbean we are dreaming of depends on what we do today. Long live the young people of the Caribbean. Long live regional cooperation. Ever onward to digital victory.
Nos quedamos con esas palabras inspiradoras.
So we're staying here with these inspirational remarks. Inspiration has been here all throughout this fourth forum. Anja said something very important, how to shape the discourse. And according to philosophy, the only thing that remains permanent is change. So this is why I have the pleasure to invite a man who values the role of the young people in the transformation of the Caribbean society. Let me invite Mr. Ronnie Taylor from the Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecom Union to deliver a message that will inspire us to look into the future. Welcome.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Good day, everyone. The Honorable Ernesto Rodriguez Hernandez, First Vice Minister of Communications, Ministry of Communications, Cuba. Honorable Aileen Fabulous Estrada, Vice Minister of Comms, Communications, and Ministry of Cuba. Minister of Communications in Cuba. Mr. Cleveland Thomas, I don't see him in the room, but he is the area representative of the Caribbean for the International Telecommunications Union. Mr. Chengitai Masango, it's really good to have you here with us in the Caribbean, in person, in the flesh. Ms. Isabel Greenup Lozado, good to see you as well. Our paths cross very often in Geneva at the ITU Council meetings, and it's good to be here in Cuba. Other government officials from the government of Cuba, representatives from regional and international organizations, representatives from our partner regional IGFs, and members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, the vibrant youth of the Caribbean. As we conclude the 4th Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum, and I want to say that the forum was not planned by the CTU. The young people planned, executed, came up with the topics, came up with the speakers, and I think they did a wonderful job, and they deserve a round of applause. I want to take a moment to reflect on the incredible energy, insight, and commitment that each of you brought to this space. This forum has once again proven that when the Caribbean youth come together, powerful ideas emerge. Ideas that can shape not only our region's digital future, but also influence global internet governance. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to the government of Cuba for hosting this landmark event and for the generous hospitality extended to all participants. Your support has created an environment where collaboration and innovation could flourish, and we are truly grateful. Over the course of today's forum, we explored a range of critical issues that will define the future of the internet in our region and beyond. We looked at artificial intelligence, policy and regulatory environments, empowering women in ICTs, and the CTU is pleased to support the CTU Network of Women, and I encourage you as well to sign up for that initiative. These discussions are not just academic, they are urgent. The internet is no longer a luxury, it is a lifeline for education, entrepreneurship, civic engagement, and cultural expression. Caribbean youth must be at the table where decisions are made about how this lifeline is governed. Your voices matter, your ideas matter, and your leadership is essential. The Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum is more than an event. It is a movement that ensures our region's youth are not just passive users of technology, but active architects of the digital world. Through platforms like this, we are building the capacity, networks, and confidence needed to engage meaningfully in global internet governance processes. Let us leave here inspired, connected, and committed. Let us continue to advocate, innovate, and collaborate. And let us remember that the future of the internet is not something that happens to us. It is something that we shape together. Thank you once again to our wonderful hosts, our partners, and every young leader who has made this forum a success. May your digital journeys continue to be bold, inclusive, and transformative. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias por compartir su visión con nosotros.
For sharing your vision with us and sharing a dream that we will be realizing from Cuba. And in closing, let me invite all of the leaders here for a photo op here.
Suban con nosotros. Tarit, please. Vamos a dejar constancia de este momento. Y como en el Caribe todos somos familia, invitamos a los jóvenes.
Caribbean, we all family, we invite the young people. The organizing committee are telling me that it is people from 16 to 36. Young people from 16 to 35 can come to the fore for the picture.
No, 35. Lo que reconoce la Organización de Naciones Unidas.
This is what is recognized by the United Nations Organization.
Después hacemos una con todos. No, no debería.
Somos la chispa, una de un corazón, una marca, desde nuestras cosas hasta el del espacio. En Cuba nace el paso.
Y esto termina con un aplauso, ¿no?
Deserves a good hand.
Y ahora las chicas, las mujeres, por favor.
Women, girls, empowered, women should stay.
Las mujeres.
Desde las islas hasta las costas brillantes, voces que se alzan construyendo puentes gigantes.
Las damas, por favor.
Ladies, please.
Rompe el ruido, salsaveros, mano a mano, la decisión es unirnos con visión.
Mañana, ¿a qué hora?
Corazones latiendo al amanecer. En Varadero nos volvemos canción.
Las también eran buenas, él también era joven.
Todos miran esta cámara, con el fotógrafo. Ya, ok, otra vez. Esta cámara con el fotógrafo oficial. So we're looking at the camera with the official
Milady, la otra, venga, vamos. Espérate que queda una en camino, vamos.
En Varadero, soñamos sin miedo, juventud creando innovación digital. El Caribe piensa en un lenguaje global.
Ya.
Ideas que fluyen al ritmo del mar. Cada clic nos vuelve a...
Gracias.
Bravo.
Okay.
Muchísimas gracias por esta experiencia.
Thank you very much for this experience. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. we will continue with our agenda on the 21st Forum of Internet Governance.